Hey, this is going to be the daily updates video that ends all other daily updates videos. What I'm going to do over the course of the next probably couple of hours is I'm going to answer every single question that is currently on the community tab of my daily updates channel. And I'm going to do this because I've assembled quite the backlog. I also have a couple of hours free, and I thought that I would do this a little bit differently than how I've been doing it up until now. I'm going to narrate everything that I say out loud so that for people in the audience that prefer to listen to me and not necessarily watch, they can just put me in their headphones, get on with their day, and then get probably 90% of all the value they'd otherwise do. I want this to be a big, broad expanse of things, from AI agency questions to questions about what I had for breakfast this morning, probably. Questions about specific problems that people are suffering from that are curious how I'd help them fix them. Questions about the community model, about content generation, about what sort of microphone or setup I have, and a whole bunch more. And I haven't gone through all of these yet, but just to show you guys the immensity and enormity of what we are going to be doing here, as I scroll through, I mean, this is just in the last 24 to 48 hours, right? We're talking like hundreds of questions. So I'm not going to skimp on any of these. I'm going to answer them in as in-depth a format as humanly possible. And I'll make sure to speak at a cadence that I think will allow us to, put this puppy on 1.5x, maybe 2x if necessary. Okay? Hopefully, we're all on the same page here. Without further ado, let me start at the very bottom of this stack and slowly work my way up, answering questions and delivering value the whole while. So the last question from 9 days ago was from Senthil Kumara Astrologer, who says, "Hey Nick, thanks for sharing all the great insights. Based on your experience with Maker Skool and the success stories from the community, I'm curious, what kind of revenue or profit potential do you think someone could realistically expect after 1 to 2 months in Maker Skool, assuming that they invest around $1,000 in lead generation and have solid skills? I would love to hear your perspective on this." $23,894.50. I'm just kidding. It's hard for me to give you a number. I think all that we can really go off of here are averages and wins that people have shared in the group. So I'm just going to open up Maker Skool, a tab of it anyway, and then I'm just going to head over to the wins tab and then scroll down from the top, and let's just see a couple of wins that people have gotten. So Eugene signed his first paying client. That was $1,500 in 5 days within joining. Cooper closed $25,000 plus a 5.5K retainer with equity by day 28. Looks like William here closed $15,000 in 60 days with no tech background. Looks like Darren closed his first Upwork client. He didn't specify time in the title, and just for the sake of his own privacy, I'm not going to click into the tab, but it looks like that was for $1,100. Daniel closed $12,000 in MRR in 6 weeks. Looks like Joseph got his first 2 clients, $1,000 project, and then a potential for $5,500. Gabrielle closed his first client, looks like $750. Matthew closed his first client for $2,000 in day 15. Albert closed his first 2 clients. He didn't specify the amount. Walker closed his first job on day 6. Looks like David closed a $4,000 a month retainer. I think this is day 40 something for him. I've been looking at his daily accountability updates, and he's been crushing it. Truett closed his first client for $750 at day 4. Let me see. Julian closed $18,000 in Skool. Looks like that was, I think, 4 months or so in. I mean, there are many, many more of these, but hopefully just off the top of the wins thread, and this isn't even me really going into detail about any of this, you guys have gotten at least like a high-level overview of the sorts of results that people get when they join Maker Skool. I'm not here to sell you a dream. I'm not here to sell you anything that I think is infeasible. As you see, there's a range. Some people close $500 in their first few days. People close $5,000 in their first few days. The gap between the people that close smaller amounts and people that close larger amounts, at the end of the day, usually just boils down to their confidence and their ability to pitch, and then experience just in service, in the services industry in general. But it's certainly doable, and a lot of these people had zero experience with hand and automation before as well. And I should note that a lot of these people invested less than $1,000 in lead gen. All right. Okay, second question, what skills do you recommend someone have before joining Maker Skool, especially around automation, systems building, or tools? I love that you're asking me this because every time you do something, I'm just getting a hell of an opportunity to pitch my paid product, so thank you for this. The skills I recommend someone have before joining Maker Skool, especially around automation, systems building, or tools. Ideally, you will have seen at least one of my playlists on N8N or Make.com. You don't need to watch both, just watch one of my playlists. Get to a point where you're familiar and comfortable with with a few of like the basic foundational nodes, and then just dive right into Maker School. The whole point is to work on your sales skills to get you generating actual live opportunities. Because the reality is there's no way that you can know everything, know code, and just computer science in general is such a fast and quick evolving field that instead of just spinning your wheels and trying to become everything for everybody, what you should really do is gain foundational knowledge, talk to customers, and then just have those customers' problems guide you in the direction of what to learn next with the internet, with AI and stuff like that. Okay? So once you're at that point, you are good to go. Just watch one of my tutorials, the N8N or the Make.com one, the full 6-hour course for N8N, or the Make.com for people that want to make real money series for Make, and then get going. Last question. Hey, Nick, curious, what is the fastest win someone's had after joining Maker School? Fastest win would probably have to be within a few hours, for sure. Has anyone hit $30,000 to $40,000 a month in revenue or profit within the first or second month? Would love to hear any standout examples. I'm pretty sure, yeah. I'm not going to lie. I get so many of these wins. As you saw back there, I think we got 3 or 4 just in the last like 24 hours that people have been posting with pretty sizable W's that it's hard for me to say I don't know for sure. I also don't really want to put anybody on super blast here. Probably in revenue. I don't know about in profit. If you're starting this business model, if you're doing it from scratch and then you're scaling to those numbers, odds are you're probably not doing that all on your own. Maybe Stefan, I don't know. Yeah, as we saw, Cooper close 25,000 with an extra 5K. So, you could technically call that 30,000 in a month, but is that 30,000 MRR? No, probably not. If you're hitting $30,000 to $40,000 a month in revenue within a month, you're like top 0.001%, to be clear. I don't expect anybody to come in here and start making that money within the first 30 days. While I think AI and automation and this business model in general and Maker School is simple, that doesn't mean that it's easy. And these are by no means expected results. So if you were to achieve numbers like this, you would probably have to work 5 to 10 times as hard as the majority of people in the program. And you'd have to be very good at what you're doing. And you'd have to have a bunch of like domain specific knowledge in a niche that allows you to formulate an offer that just happens to take off. And you'd have to have some experience with cold email and stuff like that. And odds are if you have experience with all those things, you might be able to make the $30,000 to $40,000 a month elsewhere. So I'm not going to tell you not to join Maker School if you're one of those, but yeah, hopefully at least I'm grounding this and making this a little bit more realistic for you. Emmanuel Wynn says, been following you for a while. I'm calling the cops. This type of vow should be illegal. Keep it up, bro. You're changing lives. Oh shit, that's them right over there. Thanks, man. EDM Tools says, it's awesome seeing someone else go through the learning process on the fly and seeing how you quickly solve problems with just a simple search. So many people just stick in the pain and complain, but it's refreshing to see your real-time resolutions. Thank you very much, EDDM Tools. Yuhia 5901 says, hi Nick, thank you for providing so much value. This content really shouldn't be free. I have a question about client retention. What's stopping clients from cutting you off after you build their automations? Couldn't they just copy the system and use it themselves, paying only the platform fees instead of your ongoing services? Also, do clients prefer buying just simple lead qualifiers that show interest level, or do they want complete systems with CRM integrations and front-end dashboards with metrics? So to answer your first question, what's stopping clients from cutting you off after you build their automations? To be honest, there is nothing that is stopping clients from cutting me off after I build their automation, except for the goodwill and the promise of future value in continuing to work with me. As opposed to what I think a lot of people do, which is where they try and get the client to give them everything and then host all of the platforms and tools and services on their systems as opposed to the clients, and then hang a scythe above their head that basically is implicitly saying, if you don't continue working with me, I'm going to shut off all your systems. As opposed to doing all that, my recommendation is just set everything up on the client accounts. Don't even let that enter into the relationship that you have with them, and then be incentivized, just continue delivering value. By doing so, you are not playing to these dark patterns. Client doesn't have to worry. You don't have to think that you can get away with not fulfilling your end of the bargain. So you're incentivized to work and deliver value. And ultimately, your incentives are aligned here, which I think is really important. So hypothetically, there's nothing stopping them, but you need to keep in mind that they're paying you for a reason, right? And odds are the reason is not just, hey, I want somebody to quickly set up this make.com config for me, and then I'm going to do everything else. Hey, I want somebody to do the N8N setup, and then I'm just going to do everything else. What they want is somebody that is good enough to continue managing these services, and then more importantly, delivering ongoing results for them. They want a black box that they spend $5 in and then get 15 out. They want a return on investment. Also, do clients prefer buying simple lead qualifiers that show interest level? Or do they want complete systems with CRM integration and front-end dashboards with metrics? Now, this is a little bit more complicated of a question because I'm not really sure what you mean by simple lead qualifiers that show interest level here. Simple lead qualifiers that show interest level. I imagine you're probably referring to some sort of lead scoring automation. I personally don't sell these, and I don't really find them very valuable because any lead qualification or lead scoring system that I develop is usually pretty opinionated, and I haven't really found a pretty straightforward way to make this reflect reality. I think if I had more data, and perhaps if I was working in some sort of big enterprise business with hundreds of deals coming in every week, but I'm not, and so it's difficult for me to like build a model that extrapolates, let's say, pipeline value or how likely somebody is to close, and so on and so on and so forth. In general, to answer the spirit of the question, clients prefer buying things that make them money, first and foremost. So if you can focus on systems that make clients money, as opposed to systems that do minor little optimizations here or there that might save a much smaller portion of money, you're much better off. So I'd recommend focusing on growth. At least that's what I do, and it works really well for me. Deep Dive 99 says, "Hey Nick, can you please make a detailed video on copywriting, aka writing high-quality cold emails, or explain on your beloved Excelidra?" Well, I actually use daily updates LucidSpark now. But yeah, I'll walk you through some basic copywriting tips. So let me just make sure that this tablet is on first. What I'm also going to do is just narrate this out loud for all of our listeners that are going to be doing this without looking at the screen. But basically, I'm going to give you guys some cold email basics here off the top of my head. It's by no means going to be a masterclass, but it's going to be the 80-20 of how I would address cold email. The first is your tone. Anytime you're doing cold email, I recommend writing informally and one-to-one. What does this mean? This means no we. Don't say, "Hi, we do X, Y, and Z." Instead, say, "I. Hi, I do X, Y, and Z." Anytime I've gone from we to I usually see some percentage increase in reply rate because people feel like they're not being talked to by a faceless corporation with tons of resources. They feel like they're being talked to by another person. Another thing that I recommend doing is, in the same vein, leveling with them. What do I mean by leveling with them? I mean, it's putting yourself on the same level as them. A quick and easy hack that anybody can do to do this is somewhere at the beginning of your email, just imply that you're in the same industry as them, doing the same stuff as them. So for instance, if I'm talking to somebody that runs some sort of, let's say, website design agency, I would actually somewhere at the beginning of my email say, "I run a site design agency too." Or I would say, "I work with a site design agency," or "I work in website design." You can go heavy on the implication here, but the point that I'm making is by saying something like, "I work in web design," and maybe you say, "I work in web design too," even. If you are sending this off to a website designer, normally when somebody gets a cold email, their defenses are pretty high up. I mean, the vast majority of emails they get are spam, and if they don't recognize you, that's what they're going to be assuming that your email is as well. But when you say something like this, that drops those defenses and allows you to level with them on kind of a one-to-one basis. So my first major tip, to summarize, is to keep your tone informal, one-to-one. No we, focus on I, and then level with them. Try and get them on the same level. Don't placate them and get on your hands and knees and beg them to take a look at your email, but also don't try and big dick them and imply that you're this super big, incredible company and they should be lucky to look at your email. Okay, step 2 is focus on a structure. Now, my structure is as follows, but I want you to know this is not the best structure ever. My cold emails historically used to get between 5 to 10% reply rates. I ran a campaign something like, I guess, a week and a half ago live that hasn't resulted in better than 2.5% reply rates. Now, if I were to have continued running this campaign, I probably would have been able to get up to the 3 to 5% level. But this is the structure that I'm currently using. It generates me very high positive reply rates, but it's not going to generate you like the super crazy, beautiful standout reply rates that you guys are probably seeing screenshotted on Instagram and Twitter and X and stuff like that right now. And you know why? Just because I've shown everybody this template, I've shown everybody this structure. And so there are now tens of thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands of people sending hundreds of millions of emails every month using this sort of thing. And one thing you're going to find in cold email is the same format tends to fatigue pretty quickly. It's kind of like the way that Instagram or Twitter or X or TikTok works, right? Every meme cycle only has a certain lifespan before it gets expired. This is the same thing that happens in cold email, especially the volumes that we're talking about. So my recommendation for you is pick a structure. You don't have to use my structure. I'm going to give one to you in a moment, but just pick a structure. Having a structure is better than no structure. Once you have a structure, you could start iterating on it. Okay, so here's mine. The first thing I always do is I personalize the email. When I say personalize, I actually run this through AI. And I typically feed in a bunch of social media profile fields. And then what I do with these social media profile fields is I will say, hey, I want you to generate a one-line icebreaker based off of this information. Make it anecdotal, make it informal, and here are a couple of examples. A quick and easy example you could use employs the same technique I talked about in the first step, which was to level with them, and then weave it into something that gives you plausible deniability. So a good example of a personalization prompt that's worked really well for me and for thousands of other people throughout Maker School, Make Money with Make, as well as, tens of thousands of people that follow me on YouTube, is, hey, X, love Y, also work in Z. Wanted to run something by you. So, hey, Nick, love the channel. Big fan of your no fluff approach. Also into content creation. Wanted to run something by you. If I, Nick, am reading somebody send that, that's an email where somebody sent that to me, I'm not immediately thinking this person's selling me something. What I am is I'm curious. I'm like, interesting. I wonder what this person wants, or I wonder what this person is about to say. Could be somebody reaching out to me to thank me. Could be somebody sharing some big achievement they've had. Could be somebody in my industry asking me a question. Could be somebody further along ahead than me that wants to connect. There are a lot of possible things it could be. And spam is like one of the 5 or 10 possibilities. So my defenses aren't up. Okay, so the first step is personalize, right? After personalize, I like to identify myself. So if you think about it, at the very beginning of a cold email, when somebody gets one of these things, all they're thinking is, hey, is this spam? So if you personalize, what you do is you answer that question for them. And then they say, okay, no, it's not spam. But the next logical question that comes up to people's minds is, all right, so if it's not spam, then who is this guy? Or who's this girl? Who is this person that's sending me an email? And this is where the identification step comes in. So after you personalize, you must identify. And how do you identify? I just be very straightforward and upfront. I always just say, like, I do X. And then I'll try and usually tie that in to some sort of revenue figure or value that I drive. So my identification might be, I build an AI that transforms long-form podcasts into super viral clips. On average, it makes podcasters $15,000 to $25,000 a month, or it saves $15,000 to $25,000 a month. Okay, what we're doing now is we are basically just cutting through the noise. We're identifying who it is we are, what it is that we do. And if you think about it at this point, now the person has the 80-20, and you've given it to them in as few words and as few characters as humanly possible. So on some level, you're respecting their time, and I find that anybody busy picks up on this sort of stuff really quickly. You're answering questions in their head before they even know that they have them. And when the question comes up, they naturally get the answer to it. This naturally leads into the next thing. Very respectful of the time, very efficient. The next thing I do after personalization and then identification is I will give them some sort of social proof. The way I do my social proof is almost always the same. It's very formulaic. I'll just say something like, I currently work with a XYZ firm, or whatever the company type is. Let's say it's podcast. It'd be like an X podcast. I currently work with a Dallas podcast. I currently work with like a health and wellness podcast out in Dallas. I currently work with a whatever podcast or whatever agency or a whatever company. And we make, XYZ dollars doing this. And so now what we're doing is, if the first thing people ask is this spam? And if the second thing people ask is, all right, it's not spam, so who the hell is this? The third thing people ask is, all right, so why the hell does this guy or girl matter? And you answer that with your social proof. And now they know that this isn't spam. They know who you are. They also know that you matter. And here's where you make your ask, also referred to as an offer. And your offer needs to have some sort of deliverable, which is a thing you're going to give them, some sort of time constraint, which is the amount of time it's going to take for you to do it, and then some sort of risk mitigation, which is what you are going to do for them, what they're going to get if you don't end up delivering on the promise. So a good example of this is, I currently work with a podcast and we make XYZ dollars doing this. I will guarantee you, you can frame this in whatever metric you want, by the way. For podcasts, I would probably have to do some sort of view or something of that nature. But anyway, I will guarantee you, let's just say $10,000. I'll guarantee you that I add $10,000 a month with the system in, let's just say 60 days, or you won't pay a cent. Okay. And now what they have is they know it's not spam. They know who you are. They know why you matter, and they know what it is that you're actually pitching them. That is my structure for a good cold email. Now, I should be clear here. These are just the bones of the email. These are the 4 points that I recommend you have in the emails that you send. But good quality copy takes these 4 points and then it fleshes them out. It adds things between them, spices them up. It adds very concrete and specific asks. It goes a lot deeper into them than I'm doing here. If you were to just take the stuff that I just told you and put that in an email and then start firing it off, probably do okay, but you wouldn't win any freaking, there should be a Nobel Prize for cold email. If not, I'm going to make one. Maybe I'll partner up with Instantly. You're not going to win the cold email Nick Saraev / Instantly prize just by putting all these together. What this is this is a starting point that you could use to guide you along the path to a much higher quality campaign. And this is just something that can constantly anchor you back to, okay, do I have all the information and am I answering their questions before they actually come up? There are a couple additional things you could do here, just off the top of my head. You could, ask them to meet on the phone. You could tell them that you can call them today at 11:30 a.m. or tomorrow at between 2 to 4 p.m. and to let you know a couple of times that work for a 15 minutes, no strings attached demo where you'll show them how it is and you'll end right on the dot. Plus, if they show up to the call, you'll give them a $25 Amazon gift card. That's an extension of the ask or extension of the offer. You could dial way deeper into the social proof section instead of just showing them that or telling them that you work with an XYZ podcast and you make XYZ dollars. You could actually write them up a whole case study on the specific way that you made that person all of that money. Say, I know that this might be a little bit lengthy, but I just wanted to show you exactly how we did it. No fluff, because I believe strongly in offering value upfront anytime that you want to make a relationship. So whether you want to do this with me or whether you want to hand it off to somebody else, here's everything that I did in order to do this. You could go much deeper into the identification phase, talk a little bit more about who you are, why you think that that is relevant to the ask that you were about to make, why you think it's relevant to that person. It's not just that you do simple thing, but it's that you do simple thing. You've been in the same space as them for the better part of the last 3 years. You've actually been looking at their, watching their YouTube channel ever since 2022 and ChatGPT dropped, and you started asking yourself, how might I be able to use this in cold email when all of a sudden I found you on YouTube? You can go much, much deeper into all this. And the more effort that you put into every one of these steps, the higher the resultant positive reply rate will be. And then the more qualified and high intent the prospects will be as well. But this is where you start off from. Okay. Hopefully that makes sense. Deep Dive 99. If you have more questions on this, feel free to ask. Madi says, I have built an AI compliance tool, easy system. Should I sell it as a SaaS business or a one-time business? You should sell this as a one-time build business. Well, I wish I could say that. I don't really know enough about you or what you're selling, but if you are just pattern matching here, beginner like most of the other people that are asking me questions on this channel, odds are you probably haven't built a SaaS business before. Odds are you probably don't have like runway and you'd be bootstrapping this. If you're at the start line of any sort of business, highly recommend not trying to start a SaaS from scratch. You're much better off making some quick agency money, gaining a bunch of a practical client management experience, than worrying about like building a whole full-fledged SaaS later on down the line. Because if you try and do this, you're putting the cart before the horse. Probability of a total beginner, somebody completely green to this, just starting the next Uber and winning is extraordinarily low. But the probability of like somebody that's a beginner, that's new to this, starting an agency and making $50,000 a month in the next year is actually pretty high. So long as you are getting information from the right place and you're being consistent and accountable. So much better for you to focus on the sure win first, because the cost to you is 1 year of time. And that year in the grand scheme of things isn't really going to completely and utterly change the course of the SaaS business if you're the sort of person that could actually put together a unicorn. Sail for Horizons has found this channel. We had a couple hundred subs. I was like, what? There's another channel. Followed the main since before you started. Make money with Make. Appreciate your endless massive value. Thank you. Hey, Nix is VR Prox. Love your mindset on building the business. Long question. How do you approach copywriting? How to improve it and how to iterate over the campaign step by step? Because my open rate is good, but my positive reply rate is at literal 0. Saw your daily update videos to understand, but can you give in detail clarity? Also, how do you validate the market if that is the problem? Great question. So hopefully I've walked you through my copywriting now. And what I really like about this format is anytime I get similar variants of the question, I can now in this video say, hey, answer that at the beginning, and we can look at that to save me some time. And I think by the end of the video, I'm going to be answering questions in like probably 30 seconds or so as a result. But specifically, one of the questions here I didn't answer, which is how to iterate over the campaign step by step. So here's how I would iterate over campaigns step by step. Essentially, I'm always looking to get somewhere between 500 to maybe 1,500 emails sent in a campaign before I try and decide which one of the split tests or variants in the campaign is the highest performer. So my recommendation for you is get something like 9 to 12 mailboxes. That's going to buy you something between 270 to maybe 360 cold emails a day. Split that volume in half with a 2-step sequence. Okay. And then with a 2-step sequence, you can split that further in half by having a split test in step number 1 of that sequence. You're going to be sending about 100 emails a day per step in that sequence to new leads. What that's going to mean is if you send for 6 days a week, like I usually recommend, you're going to have 600 emails in that first step for A, and then another 600 for B. And by the end of that first week, assuming that you've actually made some sizable variant, not just like changing the subject line or something, you will know definitively which one is better. By the end of that week on Sunday, then what you do is you take the winner and then you just write copy for, you take the winner, you turn off the loser, and then you duplicate the winner and then just change the copy up a little bit and proceed. You do that every single week, run it for the 6-day period as you test, then keep the winner, discard the loser, and then create a split test variant by duplicating the winner once a week. And you just do that over and over and over and over and over again. At the beginning, your recommendation is to focus more on broad sweeping changes. So start with really short emails and then contrast them with super long emails. Start with, very basic 4-step structures like I showed you back there, and then maybe move to a much deeper, more intense thing with much more personalization. Maybe experiment with 2 different structures at the start or something and find out which one works better. And then in successive weeks, as you get more drilled down into what works, then you can start making finer improvements because odds are you're now starting to land in some sort of maxima, which is what you want. Harshit gives me 2 hearts. Thank you very much. Sir Axel says, hey, Nick, I got some of your courses. I'm ready to sit down and copy them as I work with clients. Was there any time you ran into a problem or you're helping one of your first clients, and what was your process to troubleshoot? Yeah, all the time. In fact, I actually expect problems. I don't mean to say this to scare anybody here, but if I don't have a bug during a system that I build, I'm thinking I did something wrong. And I'm thinking, this is a little too easy. So I try and make doing debugging a pretty central part of the builds that I do on my channel because of that. Because I want to show you that you are most likely going to run into a bug. And what matters is not how can I avoid bugs? It's what can I do when I get a bug? As long as you remain level-headed with the bug, as long as you remain, reasonable about it, and you know that there's an overwhelming probability that it is your fault. Like a lot of people are like, oh, there's a problem with N8N, there's a problem with make.com. It's like, statistically speaking, the problem is probably you. As long as you keep that up, and you're consistent about it, you'll figure out the problem. It's not a big deal. So actually, when you find a bug, you should celebrate that fact, because every time you have a bug, that means that it's an opportunity gap in your knowledge and you can patch it to become better. All right. Dead Thunder 11 says the first always delivers Nick. Thank you. Kazuya says, why do you recommend 3 emails per domain? Can't I just make more? For example, 10 inboxes per domain if that works. The idea is you'll create a shitty domain reputation if you do that, just because you're not diversifying at the domain level. You're diversifying at the mailbox level, but you also need to diversify at the mailbox level too. Alexander Flores AI says, first question was about cold calling for inbound voice agents. Surprised you didn't mention that you're pitching a software that directly competes with a receptionist job, which must have close to a 0% success rate if they have a gatekeeper. This was a question on one of the videos that I recorded earlier called Your Outbound Sucks, Here's How to Fix This. And Alexander is entirely correct here. If you're talking to somebody that is not the decision maker in a business, and you're implying that you are going to replace their job with some sort of AI or automation, they are not incentivized to help you. And so they are not going, probably, to help you. So you need to make sure that at every step along the way, the people that you are talking to are incentivized to help you if you want them to help you. The 6T says, this is very entertaining, like an ASMR when I'm doing cold emails. This is more or less the idea of today's video. I thought I could get through a lot, and my schedule finally permit. As you see, we are at about I want to say 20th to the top of this list. So this is going to be quite the ASMR video. But yeah, that was the whole idea here. So I'm glad that you noticed. Surendra says, hey, Nick, thanks for your videos out there, man. My doubt is that can you make a video of an AI cold caller by using Airtable and VAPI and N8N? And my other doubt is that if once the agent calls every lead on a spreadsheet, how can we add new lists? We should add new lists to the existing list, or should we change a table? And after changing, how to start the automation? I'm trying to sell this cold caller social media marketing agency thing to automate their outreach. And prospecting is kind of boring repeat stuff. What's your opinion on all this? Well, to be clear, when you say doubt over and over again, I just think that this is a byproduct of probably some mistranslations. You don't have a doubt, you have a question in English. So the question is, can you make a video of an AI cold call by using Airtable and VAPI and N8N? And the answer is yes, absolutely. Will I make a video on this is another thing entirely, but can I? 100%. And the reason why is because I don't really think there's that much demand for these sorts of simple voice agent wrapper videos right now, and just not really super aligned with my stuff. So your other question is, how can you add a new list? To make a long story short, you would feed in this list to an agent like VAPI, if you're doing some sort of outbound cold calling or outbound calling, which they recently introduced, I think about a month ago now, late June. You would feed in the spreadsheet. Then every time you get new leads, you just add to the spreadsheet, and you would have some sort of flow that detects when new rows are added to the spreadsheet and then just triggers that caller. So pretty straightforward way to do this in automation. I'm just going to leave it at that for now, because I don't think it would be much value for people if I went through and actually tried sticking together a solution like that live. But if you want to see how to do similar things, just check out my main channel. I do builds like that all the time. Ahmed says, I joined Maker School March 10th. You had 40 to 50,000 subs, so I'm very stoked to see you where you are now. Keep it up, man. Thank you very much. Ahmed also says, slow down a bit, Sonic. That's funny. And then I joined Maker School, says the 6T. Man's giving away leads. Simplifier says, hey, Nick, huge fan of your work. Never seen a YouTuber give so much. I've been working my way to my first client, and we're about to close a deal. Hell yeah, I hope you have by now. Although now when I read the contract they provided me, they want me to sign away all intellectual property that I create to be owned by them. I'm all for them owning the system, but I still need to be able to own enough IP to sell similar systems to other clients. How have you solved this issue when working with clients? Thanks for everything. If I ever come to Canada, I'd love to buy you a beer. I would love you to buy me a beer. I'm not into what most people would consider beer. I like sours. You know, sours are, what are they called? Goses, I guess. So if anybody here wants to get me some sours or ghosts, please. So how would I do this? I give away all intellectual property that I create every single time. I don't care about it. The intellectual property to me means very little. The reality is that models are going to get to the point very soon where they can create more or less any one of these things in a shot. We're not there yet. There are a lot of people out there that are trying to sell you on the idea that we are there yet. We're not. But we probably will be sometime in the next 6 to 12 months. So your value as an AI agency is not in the building of the thing, and it is not in the intellectual property. Your value is in the ability to stitch together these flows, glue them together, and then connect that to a real need that the business has that this solves. So I don't care about giving up the intellectual property. That's never mattered to me, and I do it all the time. If the client here wants you to sign a document to give the intellectual property to them, while I'm not all for it, I think that's kind of silly and unnecessary of them. I do understand where some of them come from. A lot of these people are from older industries, or they come from places, let's say Europe, that typically are a lot more regulation heavy-handed, and so believe that that's how you must do business. I wouldn't worry too much about this. In terms of how to sell it to other people, well, what is the intellectual property here? It's the configuration of modules on a make.com scenario or something like that. That's pretty arbitrary, and it's not like anybody can patent a bunch of modules that are dragged and dropped across a no-code builder. If anything, I'm sure there have been people trying to make precedent before, and I'm sure make.com has been like, no, actually, we own the intellectual property. So I wouldn't really worry too much about this. I don't think this has any legs, but at the end of the day, if you really wanted to cover your ass, you could sign something like this And then you could just make sure that the make.com scenarios that you're selling to other clients are just always different in some way. Maybe they use a different platform. Maybe you start with a different trigger. Maybe you end with a different action, something like that. Realistically, that might take you 30 seconds. Okay, Madison says, I love the new setup, Nick. Thank you very much, Madison. Christian says, hey, Nick, when you have calls with leads, how do you know whether you can actually build the automations in Make? Sometimes I promise something, but then I found out that either the API can't do it or it's not possible in Make. Yeah, there are a couple ways. I mean, the first is most problems that you'll find are just variants of other problems that you've dealt with in the past. When you see me diagnosing or debugging or suggesting an automation or whatever, and you think, my God, how does Nick know all this stuff? The reality is there's like 5 problems, and I learned all 5 of them maybe in the first few months of running this business model. They are pretty standard. And just for the benefit of anybody that's watching, I'm just going to outline these problems right now, okay? So the very first major problem has to do with lead generation. So what does lead generation mean in this context? Well, there's 2 types. There is outbound lead generation, then there is inbound lead generation. Outbound is when you are reaching out to somebody else who you don't know that is not opted into a list, and then trying to sell them, usually on some sort of call, to pitch them your service, send them a proposal or quote or estimate or something, and then sign a deal. Inbound is usually when you have some sort of content like mine that you're watching right now, that nurtures people, excites them, gets them stoked about the product, educates them about the solutions and their needs and stuff like that, and then directs them into some sort of funnel like Make or Skool or, the work with me pay button on my agency website. And then you opt in, and then you are now in my funnel, let's say. Okay, so the very first problem that all businesses need to solve is lead gen. It is composed of these 2 sections, and there are some very simple systems that you could build to help people with both outbound and inbound. Okay, a very simple example of systems for outbound are just cold email systems. Another example might be some sort of cold DM system, using something like AutoIGDM, Dripify, something like that. Example of inbound systems are almost always speed-to-lead-based systems. What are speed-to-lead-based systems? Speed-to-lead-based systems are when somebody comes in through a funnel. Let's say they fill out the Work With Us page on left click. They just scroll over here and give this button a click. Then they go to the calendar, and then they decide to work with us for, something. When they fill this out, what we do is after they answer all these questions, we then pass this into AI. Then we paraphrase it and then immediately send them an email within like 30 seconds, just confirming that we got all their details and implying that there's a human being that was at the core part of this process. If you respond to people faster with an inbound flow, you typically make a lot more money. And so that is a good example of, the sorts of flows that you might build for speed to lead inbound. Variety of other ones you could do, right? You could do like, I don't know, some sort of like CRM ad system, some systematization or whatever. But anyway, as you can see here, what I've done is I've taken this one need that basically all businesses have, okay, all service businesses anyway, and some other businesses as well. Then I've just extrapolated 4 systems: cold email, cold DM, speed to lead, and then some sort of like CRM system, okay? So your question about, hey, Nick, how do I know if you could build a system in Make? Well, the truth is I've just built these 4 systems before at some point in time. And so when somebody comes to me suffering from a lead gen problem that I've identified as a lead gen problem, it's pretty easy for me to say, hey, we can totally do it, right? Okay, next up, after lead gen, you have sales. So if somebody's suffering from some sort of sales problem, there are a variety of systems that you can build to help them. It depends on the specific part of the system, part of the sales process that they are suffering from. But a typical part of the sales process that they suffer from is most people just aren't tracking their sales calls at all. So first thing you do is you just implement some sort of tracking form. So at the end of a sales call, or maybe at the beginning of the sales call, or during a sales call, you just give them a form and you say, hey, when you fill out this form, what it's going to do is it's going to add something to your CRM. Or it's going to, I don't know, make a new line item, or it's going to add it to a dashboard or a sheet or a database or something. And then, at the end of the month, you'll be able to say, how many calls did I have? 14 calls. How many of those calls converted? 2. What is my conversion rate? 2 over 14, 1 over 7, 16%, something like that. Okay. From that tracking form, you can also do things like some form of asset generator. What do I mean by this? Well, if you have somebody that's filling out a form to track, you can also get them to fill out a form to generate an asset at the same time. Because it turns out there's a very small additional amount of information you need to add to a form to turn it from something that just like logs to something that can actually do something dynamically with AI. What's an asset generator? For instance, a proposal or a quote or an estimate or something of that nature. Okay. So I'm going to say asset generator over here, and then I'm going to say proposal. And what's another thing that I've sold before? Some sort of meeting recording. This is similar to tracking forms, and it can be used as the source for an asset generator. But this is basically just, like you telling them, hey, you should sign up to Fathom, or hey, you should sign up to Fireflies. Not exactly rocket science, right? So if they're having a sales problem, this is a pretty easy way for me to do the sales stuff. Okay, here are some more systems that I've sold for the next step of the process. Start with lead gen, then we go down to sales. What happens after sales? Well, obviously you need like the conversion, right? What do I mean by conversion? Conversion is just a step where you take somebody from a lead and you turn them into a client. So now they're no longer just a lead, they're a whole client. So yeah, let's just jump through this conversion step. What sort of systems can you sell? Variety. Probably the simplest one is some sort of, and this is related to the previous step, the proposal, but it's some sort of trigger that watches a document. So it watches your proposal. And then once it's signed, it does something. What does it do? It could do one of a million things. It could update your CRM, or it could change the status of something, or it could send them an email, or it could send them a form, whatever the heck the specific thing is in your business. But this is just some sort of like document-based trigger. Okay, it could send or process payment, right? In order to take somebody from a lead and turn them into a client, you need some sort of money to change hands in the most part. This isn't true always. There's some platforms like Upwork where you basically get people on escrow. And if that's the case, then, technically their money is now somewhere. It's not in your hands, but it is somewhere and they've locked in. But you could sell systems, or you could implement systems that allow you to send or process payment for people, aka like do your conversion mechanism. There are a variety of other ones as well. Anyway, I think for simplicity's sake, I'll probably leave it there and we'll only focus on these two because this is the 80-20. The other systems that I was going to suggest here are just completely unnecessary for most people. The fourth is some sort of onboarding. So think about it. We're just working logically down through the stack, right? The first time people meet you, from click up here, lead gen, all the way down to sales, to close, the conversion mechanism, and now they're actually inside your company, they're doing onboarding. So what sort of onboarding systems are there? Just to be totally complete and to make sure I can benefit from answering future questions with this question, I'm going to do this. But you could do something where, you send a calendar invite to a kickoff call. The second that somebody does the conversion mechanism, now they have a calendar invite for a kickoff call. Then they book the kickoff call and that does something else. And then voila, now they're in your system. You've updated all the CRM fields and now you're ready with the kickoff. Or maybe you send them a form. This is just like some sort of form brief. Maybe what you do is you actually generate assets. What I mean by this, they fill out the form now, they're onboarded, and you take that onboarding form answer, and then you feed that into AI and use it to generate their style guide, or use it to generate their tone of voice document or something of that nature. Okay? Then all the while, you're also doing things like updating the CRM. And managing the CRM as well, I should say. Because at this point, the CRM is moving from just being your customer relationship management system to also like your whole, your whole project management system as well, right? CRM stands for customer management system, but now we're kind of past just the customer management. Now we're doing like project management. Okay, what happens after onboarding? Well, they're in your system now. They're in your ecosystem. So it's time to actually fulfill the project. What are some simple things that you can do on the fulfillment side? Well, the first thing you can do is you can implement tracking for all your staff members and anybody in the organization that's working on that project. So this is things like just wrapping time tracking tools like Harvest or ClickUp or Toggle, or one of the many ones that you could use, Rise and stuff like that. I mean, I wouldn't recommend this for clients, but just wanted to throw that in there because I got a affiliate code for it. Yeah, baby. And now, every time somebody in your team works on a project, now you have some tracking mechanism in place. It could also be stuff like pre-generating assets. So remember earlier, I was talking about the onboarding form. Well, let's say you're like a content writing agency or something. After you have the style guide and after they have sent you their first request, you can combine the style guide and their first request to actually template out and draft large chunks of content using OpenAI web search or something like that. Likewise, if you're doing design, maybe you have a series of 15 templates, and then what you do is you have AI modify these templates, pick one template and then modify them slightly to just draft a website that you then send to a designer for touch-ups. This is an example of productizing that solution. Then finally, after fulfillment, you need some sort of retention mechanism. That is kind of like the last step here. And then there are a variety of things you can do for retention. You could do some sort of like time-based reactivation where you grab that CRM that you helped them develop before, and then you just move all the way down top to bottom and just reactivate leads every once in a while. You could do some sort of, instead of it being like a longitudinal one, you could do it like specifically per client as they go through the system. So maybe, after you're done fulfilling the project or whatever, 2 days later, you send some sort of like follow-up. and it's a templated follow-up, but the follow-up just says something along the lines of, hey, had a blast building your project out for you. Just wanted to check in. While I was doing X, Y, and Z, I noticed an opportunity that I think might be able to make you $3,000 to $5,000 a month more. No, it's totally out of left field and it's a bold ask, but would you be interested in me solving this for you? I'll give you some quick bullet points, and if that makes sense, we can jump on a call. So you can do some sort of follow-up system there for retention. Okay, so top to bottom, that's one system, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So what I did here is I just gave you guys 18 systems that you guys could sell to basically any service business. And at the same time, I answered Christian's great question, which was, how do you know whether you can actually build the automations in Make? Well, I know how to build the automations in Make just because I've built these 18 systems several times each. And when you see the need that the customer suffers from, it's very easy for me just to be like, oh, it's a outbound need. So I have 3 or 4 systems I can sell them. This one, that one, that one, or that one. Which one fits the best with their needs? That one. Can I build it? Yeah, I can. I've done it a million times, right? The actual platforms that you use here, whether it's Instantly or Smart Lead, whether it's LinkedIn or X, whether it's Facebook lead ads, GoHighLevel, whether it's ClickUp, Asana, Trello, this stuff doesn't actually matter for the most part. All platforms are basically the same and do identical things. It's just you need to focus on the shape of the problem. You feel me? Okay. DS Jeremy says, hey Nick, thanks so much for this. Let's say you have the bandwidth to run 3 projects on the side of your main job. As you want to keep momentum and growing, you want to continue with sales and client acquisition. Now, if new clients come in, how do you make it clear you'll take them only if the price increases? And how do you justify that to them? That's interesting. If new clients come in, I would not even mention the price increase to those clients because they're new clients. So you don't have to mention the price increase, right? These people don't know what your current prices are. So you have the opportunity to reinvent your agency and just say, well, we charge X. So I would not even ask myself, I wouldn't even worry about solving this problem. How do you delegate and hire other freelancers? Do you mention to the client? If so, can you tell us more about your process? Yeah, for sure. There are a variety of different ways to do this. The way that I used to do this with 1 Second Copy is because I started off doing freelance writing, is after the first or second client engagement, I would say something along the lines of, hey, Peter, wanted to get your feedback on something. I'm expanding my team. I'm considering adding a consultant that does X, Y, and Z on this. I wanted to, have somebody take a look at whatever the XYZ next project is that we're doing, and then see if you had any thoughts on whether or not this is better than what I was doing before or worse. Then what you do is you just have your team member work on the thing. You deliver knockout, standout results on it. Then you have them go like, wow, this is great. Yeah, this sounds awesome. And I'm like, awesome. Thanks so much for being a part of my business journey. Let me know anytime if you need anything. Then you could even give them some sort of incentive as a result. To reflect this, I also want to give you 10% off. If you do this, they'll be your customer for life. Also, another way that you could do it is you could just make it abundantly clear from the very first meeting that you're working with somebody else in this. So, there's a lead. They say, hey, this sounds amazing. I'd love to jump on the call. And you say, great, awesome. You jump on the call and you just invite somebody else in your team. And while you're chatting with the person, while you are closing them on the deal, maybe doing a disco if it's a 2-step or whatever, if it's a 1-step. On the call, you just position and edify this person as being like this super strategic, intelligent, brilliant fellow that's very, very good at X, Y, and Z. And this is Chris. He's going to be helping me do X, Y, and Z. Then you just pass it off to Chris. Chris does all of the delivery and stuff like that. Because now they've had some FaceTime with the client, and now the client presumably feels comfortable with them. And now that little halo around you, if it's inbound, you definitely have a halo. If it's outbound, maybe it's less of a halo, but it's more of like this is the guy I initially talked to. You've now sufficiently passed that off to that person. It's not going to be 100%, but it's going to be pretty close. And then they can kind of take it from there. So that is the way that you do this. Okay, DS Jeremy says, could you please share how you plan and track your business? I want to do it in Google Sheets/Notion, but I think I have blank page syndrome. Yeah, the simplest way that you could do this, I'm just not going to share mine, which is actually literally right over here. It's called Life Tracker. So I'm just going to go over here. I'm just going to zoom way in. And basically what I would do is I would have various sheets for inputs that I want to track. So this let's just call this sales. And then I would have a date column like this. And then I would just have the platform or the thing that you are doing. So let's say Upwork apps. Then let's say you want to do, cold emails. Then let's say you want to do community posts. I would actually just go through top to bottom, and every day, today is July the 23rd, I would say I did 10 Upwork apps. I did 270 cold emails. I did 3 community posts. And I would just go top to bottom and do this. This is like your input tracker, okay? You could also then have an output tracker. And maybe, I don't know, this is a very simple and bastardized example, but I actually do like just doing very, very simple trackers here because I don't want to get caught up in like the actual tracking itself. And I believe strongly that you should be doing this stuff manually to some extent because it instills a habit. It also forces you to look at it every day. If you've ever wondered why I always do this every day with brand stats while on video with you guys, this is why. But what you could also do is you could have maybe like, an input section over here. Then you could have like an output section over here where now you have Upwork responses and you have Upwork calls, Upwork closes. And, maybe this is now your Upwork section, which you do in this color. Not exactly rocket science, right? Hopefully you guys are seeing just how simple this is. And, you actually got 3 responses and then you had 1 call and you had 1 close, right? Then the next day came around. And then, I don't know, you had 0 responses, 0 calls, 0 closes. And what you do is over the course of the weeks and the months, despite the fact that these are not going to be attributed to specific days, the numbers will average out and you're able to get relative metrics for everything. You do the same thing with the other input and the other input. So you have cold email responses, cold email calls, cold email closes. You can track whatever the hell you want, right? But hopefully this helps solve that blank page syndrome of yours. Productized says, hey mentor, got my first ever positive reply from my campaign within 3 hours into the campaign. Thanks a lot for the guidance and especially the advice you gave by seeing the stats of my campaign, which you answered, maybe forgot, but after that I changed the copy, scraped fresh leads, and now got the result. Hope they book for the sales call and get closed. Nice work, Productized. There's a low probability if it's your first time doing something like this that you will close this client, to be abundantly clear, but I'm really proud of you. And the fact that you've already taken those first steps is huge. Andy BJJ04 says, is it still possible to hit $10,000 a month selling AI to businesses? Yeah, it's still possible to do basically anything. And I think just the framing of this probably makes me think that you're like really worried about these like fad business models. And you also think that like, if it's not in trend or whatever, then you can't actually make money with it. First of all, this is very much trendy, like extraordinarily trendy, which I think is actually a problem, not necessarily something that's good. And second of all, you can make money in any industry, no matter how saturated it is. I want you guys to realize that like website design as a business model was sort of like the first iteration of like the agency model. Okay, well, not the first iteration, but like the first iteration of like the internet agency make money online model. Like that niche came out almost 30 years ago. You could still start a web design agency today and you could make $10,000 a month. Hell, you could make $100,000 a month. You want to see somebody that's actually doing $100,000 a month right now? I have their tab open because I was just on their website considering working with them. This guy makes over $100,000 a month just providing website design services as a solo agency. Very similar methodology and mindset to me. It's called Design Joy. Guy's name's Brett. What does he do? He just like creates a bunch of templates. Then he rebranded the idea of web design, turned it into a productized service, and now he makes over $100,000 a month doing it. Okay? You can do whatever the hell you want. It's just all about the tenacity with which you attack the problem and your creativity and how to pitch and frame it alongside your consistency. So it's more than possible to hit $10,000 a month selling out of businesses. Fahim says, thanks, Nick, but I needed the free ways of lead gen, like a roadmap, how I can get my first dollar within 2 days. But you tried the best from your end and shared. Thank you. Yeah, definitely no way to just like make infinite money within 2 days. Probability of success for free is pretty low. If you are in that tight of a spot, I think there are other ways to make money, like just going down to like a temp agency or something like that, like just doing some demo or whatever. I used to do demolition. Well, I did demolition for a couple weeks. I shouldn't say I used to do it as in it was my full-time career, but I did it for a couple weeks. I made a bunch of cash under the table. That's the sort of stuff that I'd probably have to resort to. In your case, Drew Diesel says, hey, Nikki, thanks for the value you provide. Maker School's amazing. I suggest it everyone. Thank you very much, Drew. Good having you there, man. What if you built agencies here on daily updates and then gave those agencies away to people? They could opt in using a type form, so you know you're giving the business to someone that can handle it. And then you could become the Oprah of AI automation agencies. That's really cool. Okay. Matthew says, I think that's a great idea. I'm not entirely sure how they do it, but I really like I like your snuff, man. Is that a thing? Hey, Nick, sorry for so many questions. No need to apologize. That's what we're here for. Also, is your profile picture a potato? It is a potato. What do you think about personalizing 90% of an email based on one of your own proven templates rather than just the icebreaker, broken into something like offer, intro, and value prop? This is actually what I recommend, believe it or not, for deep personalization. So it's exactly this. The fact that you're asking me this means you're ahead of the curve. What are your thoughts on offering cold outreach as a service by showcasing example cold emails directly within the outreach itself? Is this a bit silly? No, I don't think so. I think this is a pretty solid asset that you could give to somebody, and I've recommended it a couple of times. How do you recommend structuring cold email outreach for a marketing client? Reply rates are very low at the moment for him. So I guess you got a client. Congrats on that. I feel like it's because he doesn't have a specific niche he wants to target or past work he feels comfortable with mentioning in the outreach. That might be it, yeah. If you go back to the beginning of this video where I was covering the cold email structure, we had those 4 points, and that point of identification is important. That point of social proof is very important. And that point of the offer is also very important. And it sounds like this person that you're working with, if they are anything like the dozens of marketing agencies that I've worked with to perform similar services for, probably doesn't know how to sell, and they don't even know how to frame their service. That's why they're in the situation in the first place where they need to work with somebody like you, Matthew. So my recommendation for you is don't actually give them very much creative control or freedom over the emails at all. You are the professional here. You are the expert. You are learning from this guy who knows how to do this sort of stuff. You should not dilute that by running it by somebody that just blows at all of this stuff. Just make sure to get a sufficient amount of buy-in, sufficient amount of trust, and then let them know that your whole job is to generate leads for them, and you're going to do it based off of the most effective way that you can. So you come up with the niches. You come up with the past work. You come up with the social proof, and you come up with the offers. Okay? Hopefully that makes sense. Congrats, Nick. Thanks for sharing this. Thank you very much, Amen. Taking a second to confirm that I'm 100% appreciating this type of content from you, Nick, says Ty. Incredible value delivered so clearly. Feeling inspired. Thank you. Thank you very much. Patrick says, outside of your Skool community, are you still actively running your AI automation agency, or is managing and interacting with the community your main daily focus, taking up about 1.5 hours a day? Well, this is now definitely my main daily focus, to be abundantly clear. But I am now, I'm scaling up the AI automation agency again. We signed a $20,000 deal just a couple of days ago. So that's pretty cool. And I'm going to continue adding. We're in talks with, I think this is now an 8-figure. It's like not a low 8-figure. It's like a mid 8-figure firm for potential acquisition, which would be pretty cool. I don't think that I'm going to do the acquisition because I don't really think it makes any sense. But I've segued conversations like this as some sort of flat monthly fee before, so that might be something that we're going to do. We're pitching them something along the lines of about $50,000 a month. Yeah, we're working out a bunch of systems. When I say we, now it's my business partner and I. And the reason why is I feasibly can't manage this on my own anymore because I'm now running this brand. If it was just me doing the agency all day, I would just do the agency all day myself, right? But that's what I'm doing with the community. So yeah, to answer your specific question, managing and interacting with the community is 100% my main daily focus. That takes up about 1.5 hours a day. But you need to keep in mind that I'm also creating content, which takes up a lot of time. If I'm looking at the clock right now, if I continue at this vein, this daily updates video is going to take me something like 3 hours to do. So 1.5 hours there, 3 hours on the daily updates video, maybe another half an hour to like process, package it, maybe another 45 minutes to do like team management for my strategist, my editor and stuff like that. Hopefully you can see how I am now getting up to the point where, I can't really take care of that feasibly on my end anymore. And Noah, my partner, is a freaking ops guru. He's a specialist. He's one of like the most technically competent people I've ever met in my life. And he's at the core of why I was able to scale. We were able to scale together because he was my partner at 1 Second Copy as well, my previous content agency, to $90K a month. And he was very much part of the reason why I got that. I don't know how long you've been following me here, but a PR agency opportunity where I came in and then did an operational turnaround and then owned about 25%, about a quarter of a PR agency that's worked with NASA, Fujitsu, multi-billion-dollar organizations, the European Union, for Christ's sake. He's just been at the core of so much there that it made sense for me to hand off responsibility on the ops side to him. And I think he's just already doing a brilliant job. I think he's going to continue doing an even more brilliant job. So my plans are, I'm now going back through all of my YouTube videos and I'm updating my descriptions with basically an inbound funnel for left click. We're already dealing with a couple of sales calls a day for this purpose, which Noah is eventually going to have to start hiring other people to do. Then we're going to operate it as sort of like a mid-market and up AI implementations and services agency. So instead of me just doing like small to mid-sized business deals like I was doing before when I scaled in that hyper-leveraged way, I'm going to be focusing on mid-market deals. $10, $20, $30, $40,000 a month type stuff. Probably with some sort of like minimum. Instead of me just doing monthly, it's going to be like a 3, 6, 12 month sort of thing. And we'll offer like, custom scopes and whatnot, but still retain that productized nature, if that makes sense. Think Deloitte Consulting, just for AI. That's basically what I'm going for. Anywho, hopefully that answers your question. Vlad gives me some funny faces. Thank you very much, Vlad. Jared says he says Alex like it's his bud. He's talking about Alex Hormozy. That's a freaking flex, man. Yeah, it's pretty cool, huh? You know what? I might have a photo that I could show you guys, actually. Footage is going to be up pretty soon. Footage of the Skool games where I went through and I did all of this. But for those of you that are looking at the camera now, I'm going to see if I could show you guys a photo that was shared briefly of me on the Skool stage with none other than Mr. Hormozy himself. This is the man. You guys seeing this? I don't know if you guys could see this, but there I am somewhere in the middle. And then Alex Hormozy in the shortest shorts I think I've ever seen, as well as the tightest tank top. It's hard not for tank tops not to be really tight on this man because he is so wide that guy could hardly fit through doors, man. That guy, the distance from his left to his right shoulder is like the distance from here to the North Pole. And then Sam Ovens is over here on my left. He's like the godfather of Skool. I mean, you know, founder of Skool, and also the reason why it has become so successful. He has such immense, incredible clarity of mind. It's nuts. And yeah, that's more or less what I did last weekend. So yeah, Jared, it was really cool. I don't think Alex is my bud. I'd like to be buds with him at some point. I didn't really have a chance to chat too much with him outside of the 1 hour or so kind of seminar session that we had. But man, was it freaking awesome to be up there on stage with this guy whose content I've consumed so much of over the course of the last couple of years. Chris gives me a bunch of timestamps. I really appreciate that, Chris. Thank you. Dan says, too long on the comments recently, which I get. Here for the build in public. Appreciate you, man. Hope you skip this. Well, you're definitely not going to like today, Dan. A Automation Station says, the man, the myth, the legend, goat. Thank you. Amazon Bound. So, hey, this is my old Bulgarian tutor. Is that right, Nick? Thank you. He says, what an unbelievable, amazing mountain of gold this is. Wow. Thank you, Nick. Blagudaria. Charlene says, congratulations. You definitely deserve this. Well done, Nick. Man, this value is crazy. Thank you. Sarcasm says, yo, Nick, just wondering how you would go about getting some good footage for video ads. I have clients send me some of their personal work, but it usually isn't relevant or low quality. I work with contractors and know that there's some decent AI software that can generate some stuff for me, but I thought I'd ask you in case you know some good ones. Good footage for video ads. I'm not a big video ad guy, to be clear, and I don't really do anywhere near as much pay-per-click and, you know, like targeted advertising as I probably should. I do almost entirely organic, despite the fact that after a certain point, it stops being like the best lever to press, you know? Like learning some ad skills probably is in the cards for me at some point in the near future. But to answer that question, I know personally that there are a lot of people that are running like very high throughput affiliate campaigns right now, earning millions of dollars a month, and they weave VEO or VO3 ads directly into their footage. They don't make it clear that it's VO3 ads. What they do is they just use that for like B-roll, and the cost is so much cheaper than actually having some sort of like production studio do it. It's just like not even comparable at this point. So the quality is not all the way there yet. And obviously it's clear to some people that squint and look really closely that it is AI. But you can usually get away with stuff like that by adding some sort of, like if on the audio side of things, adding some sort of background noise, then also adding some sort of effects on screen as well as some sort of captions that come up while people are talking. Captions are very important for any sort of video ad, by the way. If you don't have captions, then you'll lose the vast majority of people on short form that don't have audio enabled, which turns out is like a big chunk of them. So if that is too expensive for you or you don't want to do that, you can also use like free video libraries or low-cost video libraries like Pexels. I think the Unsplash guys now have a video API there as well. You can also just look up like Storyblocks, Motion Array, stuff like that. Mind Booster says, hey, Nick, I'm truly happy about your success and deeply appreciate your honesty and sharing your journey. Hopefully we can all grow and thrive together on this path. Thank you. Just have a quick question that's been on my mind. Genuinely curious about your thoughts. I appreciate that. Lately, I've noticed that most AI influencers and agency owners have their own YouTube channels. Looks like YouTube is a major part of the strategy. So my question is, does YouTube still hold that much value today? Is your YouTube income higher than your Skool income, for example? No, definitely not. My YouTube income is, I think, $11,000. Let me actually just check this. Why don't we go to my main channel here? My YouTube income on my daily updates channel last 28 days is $935. So it's about $30 a day. Then on the main channel, my YouTube income is $10,000 in the last month. So what's that, about $300 a day? It's about 10x actually. Very interesting. So no, it is definitely not higher than my Skool income. My Skool income is like $300 and something thousand a month. Skool is the #1 source of my income. I wonder why so many top experts like yourself focus so much on creating YouTube content instead of just putting all their energy into building their own companies and projects. And I'm just curious and would truly respect any insight you're willing to share. Warm regards, Talha. Yeah, for sure. I think this is a solid question. And I actually used to ask it a lot when I used to be wondering why the hell all these people that are recording YouTube videos aren't just keeping it all to themselves. Because if you record YouTube videos on something, aren't you just giving away all your sauce? And if you're giving away all your sauce, are you just making it harder for yourself to make money in the industry? So there are a couple points to this. The first point is all about leverage, right? So leverage is probably the most important thing that I've learned over the course of the last couple of years. And leverage changes based on where you are in your journey. So the highest leverage thing that I think anybody could do at the start line of a business, and if this is just a little graph I'm going to draw here on the left-hand side, it's just a little number line. It says start, and then on the right-hand side, it says end. At the start of your career, the highest leverage thing you can do is just get up and running ASAP. And how do you get up and running ASAP? You do some sort of agency or you sell some sort of services. Why? Because this is about as close to $0 capital outlay, as close to zero skill required to get up and running, as close to no barrier to entry as humanly possible in business. And so it just makes sense to do this because you have no skills. You have no capital probably. You're totally dead broke. You're in debt and you don't even realize it. Knowledge debt, client management skill debt, technical skill debt, scoping skill debt. You're in debt in so many ways and you don't even realize that the only way to pay down all that in as high leverage a way as possible is doing the thing, doing the service. Now, as you get better, you kind of proceed down this line. You gain more distribution, you gain more authority, you have more people that listen to you, and you get better at doing the thing. And so your previously higher leverage activity, your highest leverage activity, which was doing the agency, has now shifted. And now actually doing the thing, providing the service is no longer the highest point of leverage for you. What I mean by this is if you continue just providing services to people, you will continue making money, but it is not the fastest that you could make money. Instead, the fastest way you could make money is doing some sort of consulting. In consulting, instead of providing the services, the building, boots on the ground type stuff, where you're doing marketing campaigns or you're doing PPC ads or you're doing AI automation implementation services, what you're now doing is you're talking about how to do those things. And you're telling somebody, usually on a one-on-one basis, hey, here's how I would do the thing in your shoes. Take this information and pass it off to somebody in your team. I can also supply you with people from my team that can do it for you. But now what you're doing is you're moving up the ladder. You're no longer doing the thing. Now you are strategizing about the thing. And that is a higher point of leverage if you are good at what you do. And so that's just leveraging your knowledge. If your agency rate is something like, let's just say $150 an hour, which is standard for a lot of agencies, your consulting rate, your equivalent rate, might be 3 or 4x that. Maybe now you're capable of making $450 an hour. Okay, now let's move on even further to your career. And let's say now, not only are you incredible at the agency side of things and the consulting side of things, but now you have incredibly more distribution and you're also really, really good at what you do, like really, really, really good. We're talking world class, like top 0.1%. What you do is you move up one more step of leverage. And so instead of just consulting with businesses on how to implement the services, what you now do is you start coaching people that are providing agency services on how to become consultants that then demand significantly higher hourly rates, or how to turn people that are not even on the entrepreneurial map and how to turn them into people that run agencies. Okay. And now this is way higher leverage. And if the agency to consulting gap was about a 3x in hourly rate, the consulting to coaching gap could be anything from like a 10 to a 20x rate. In my case, it's about a 15x rate. And so my hourly is now something like $7,000. Okay, so I'm now making something like $7,000 an hour on the coaching. Now, this doesn't take into account the time I spend building my audience and stuff like that. If you were to take all of this into account and then put this together, I'm probably somewhere around like $1,500 an hour or something like that, maybe $2,000 an hour. But what I'm trying to say is your optimal point of leverage changes the further that you get down the skill and the distribution kind of number line here. Okay. So to make a long story short, typically the way that people do things is to start by doing the service. When you do the service, you pay down all that debt in as high leverage way as possible. Then you strategize about the service. That's that next consulting step. Then finally, you teach people how to do the service. And then sort of like that mega evolved one. It's like teach people how to transition from doing to strategizing. And then, of course, you can go up one more level. I mean, it's all turtles all the way down, ladies and gentlemen. You could teach people how to teach people how to do the service. But after a certain point in time, and oh boy, am I about to sneeze for the first time in this 70-minute video? I think I have it under control. That right there is the sheer tyranny of will. If you get too abstract, then like you kind of lose all connection with reality. And if you lose all connection with reality, then usually you just like stop being good at doing the thing that you got good at initially, which then impacts your ability to like make money teaching it, right? So hopefully that makes sense, Mind Boster. Omar Thinks says this video is gold. Thank you. Blakeinator, I love that name, says, hi, Nick, your authenticity and commitment to showing up is more valuable than I could explain. Thanks a ton. My background is in mathematics. I recently completed my first paid project for a math agency. They asked me to write exams for their students, and I created a full SaaS app that uses AI instead, automating myself out of a job, essentially. So I thought I should continue in this, but it's very small. And in my home country of Australia, there's only about 1,000 tutoring agencies in total, which essentially rules out cold email immediately unless I get it perfect from the start. I did focus on one city and got a 10% positive reply rate, 3 replies from 28 emails. Incredible. But I think I landed in spam for many of them and could have gotten higher. But I can't just try again due to a tiny sample size. Am I being silly and sticking to this niche? Should I move out or change my approach to a longer game, building genuine connections on LinkedIn, etc., so that I can leverage my strong background in this niche? Well, I think your strong background in this niche certainly impacts your ability to crush it here, and it's one of the reasons why you probably got a 10% reply rate. But it's probably not the only reason you got a 10% reply rate. If I were you, Blakeinator, I would expand, and I would continue doing what you're doing at the same time. You mentioned that there are 1,000 tutoring agencies in total. Realistically, let's just say it's on the higher end of that number to make the math simple. You've done 28 of them, so you're at a 2.8% total TAM completion. You already got 3 replies from that, right? Why don't you just drip out another 30 emails and get another 3 replies? Why don't you then drip out another 30 and just get another 3 replies and just keep on going down the stack? Do it in batches of 30. Do it using cold email techniques that I talk about in both my programs and also on my YouTube channel to minimize the impact on deliverability. And then maybe you'll get even more than 3 replies from 28 emails. If you just do this in small batches, you have 30 potential tests, right? So I don't really think you have a problem at all. I think you're just putting the cart before the horse, losing the forest for the trees. I think if you were to run this and you were to be able to convert, let's say of these 3 replies, one of them gets on a call, you get 30 calls. And by the end of those 30 calls, assuming that you are as good at this as you think that you are, you'll probably be able to close a reasonable number of them. Let's say you close 1 in 6, now you're closing 5 clients. You have 5 clients in this niche. To be honest, depending on pricing, you may not need more than 5 clients in this niche. That might be sufficient for you. And maybe the referral multiplier on these, if it's like 1.1, aka 10% probability of somebody referring you to somebody else, let's say 20% just for math's sake, that might actually be enough to begin some referral flywheel that actually takes care of you needing to find other tutoring agencies, and then it'll allow you to tackle those other 2 niches in the meantime. So yeah, I'm not seeing any major issue here personally. Money Whiz DM says, Nick, love your videos. Please answer. This question is important. I know that as a 16-year-old, a lot of businesses don't want to work with you. And even if they do, they don't want to take you that seriously or don't pay you well. So I made my cousin, who's way older than I, my business partner. She doesn't know about AAA, but she's willing to learn. AAA, in this case, probably means the AI automation agency model. Is it a good idea to make her the face of the agency while I do the work behind the scenes? And would you say that Instagram DM is worth the time? Well, this is a really, really clever 16-year-old right here. 16-year-old correctly identifies that a lot of businesses will not want to pass off sensitive information, systems, their reputation, and their money to a 16-year-old because 16-year-old just probably, statistically, has not had enough time in the market to like really be good at that stuff, right? And, experience in a market is something that basically every client will look for. They want proof that you've done this stuff before. They want some sort of assurance that's not going to screw them up and they're not taking too much risk on the project. So 16-year-old correctly identified that is important and pass this off in a creative way to a business partner who's older, who probably isn't going to have that sort of issue. So I think that that's brilliant. Is it a good idea to make her the face of the agency while I do the work behind the scenes? I think that's doable, yeah. Totally. That's probably the best thing that I've heard of so far to solve this problem. I would also explore platforms like freelancer.com, which I believe you can start signing up to when you are 16. And there are things that you can do to reduce the perceived impact on you being really young. You could show up and just try and look older, for one. Obviously, you're limited in your ability to make that really happen. But I think you're probably doing the 80-20 approach. And I got to say, it's probably the most creative answer I could have seen for that. So I get kids that enter my program all the time, and they're bright, ambitious, and really intelligent. And they run into issues like this where they're just not being taken seriously because of their age, even though they do have a lot more experience on this specific thing than most of the people they're talking to. People just disqualify them because they're 16, 17. They don't have hair on their face. They have stubble on their chin. Let's be real. I barely have stubble on my chin, and I'm like almost 30. So yeah, I think I'm probably going to suggest something similar. So nice work there. And I'm only saying this not because I want to like discourage you from this. I think it's incredible that you're that young and then you're already moving forward in a career like this that is so quickly accelerating, and you're positioning yourself at like the right time to pick up on this, just gain an intuitive knowledge of how AI works. I'm just saying this because it reflects my own experience as somebody that started going door to door and cold calling when I was in my early 20s. I faced a massive negative reputation all the time, just because I, at 23, looked like I was like 17 or 18. So great work. Keep it up. Yeah, I'd say Instagram DM outreach is worth the time, but coordinate that with LinkedIn outreach as well. Hey, Nick, my name's Max. I've been following your channel, and you're one of the few people that help me truly understand how AI and automation work. I really appreciate the way you explain things clearly and honestly. I don't have formal training, only projects I've built for myself or as practice, but now I want to start freelancing and offering services. You already answered how to talk to clients if you don't have real case studies, and your advice helped a lot. But I have a follow-up question. In my country, the market literally fears AI and automation. Business owners worry about losing control and don't trust the idea of machines doing their tasks. So here's my question. Should I try and push through that mindset locally, help educate the market, and build trust slowly? Or should I target international markets right away, where people are ready to embrace automation and AI? Would really appreciate your thoughts in a reply, or maybe even in one of your next videos. Great question, Max. Max has an adorable cat as their profile pic. This idea of the market fearing AI and automation is not a valid one. It may be true that markets fear AI and automation, but you can't just treat this like a 0 to 1. It's not that they fear AI and automation, and because of that, it is impossible to succeed. If we're being honest, this isn't a black or white issue, it's a shaded gray issue. Every market fears AI and automation to some degree, right? It's just the degree to which they fear AI and automation. And so in markets that fear AI and automation more, you'll have a harder time of making it work than in markets that fear AI and automation less. But it's not like if a market fears AI and automation, you have no shot of making it. So I say that because I think it's important to realize that nothing in business is ever black or white. There are always shades of gray, let alone business. In life as well, there are always shades of gray. Most of the time, it's not decision A, path A or path B. Turns out there's actually usually a creative solution that allows you to combine most of the best of path A with most of the best of path B. In your case, if you are entering a small market, you benefit from not having a lot of competition. And for your competition, probably to not be very sophisticated, because they just haven't felt the evolutionary pressures of having to become sophisticated like they have in, let's say, I don't know, the US market for recruitment in cold email, just as an example, as one that I personally have gone through quite recently. So the two paths that you have are, should I stay in this market or should I go? And the creative way to combine the best of both worlds is you should do both. You should make one of your niches this market, and then you should make the other two niches markets outside of this market. And now you have a diversified strategy where everything that you do for these other two markets, realistically, you can probably translate 80% over to that other market. If it's a language thing, you build a cold email campaign for market A, well, then you just translate it and then you get the same one in market B. Hopefully what I'm saying here makes sense, but I think you're just treating it as a black or white issue when you don't really have to. Chris Notion says, that was good. Thank you, Chris. Tusif says, you said that at 15 years old, it is really hard to get clients. I've got a professional email and a Loom paid plan. If it's not possible for me to make money, then what should I focus on? Hey, I don't think it's impossible for you to make money. You said it yourself. It's just really hard to get clients, right? So if we focus on the exact wording of your statement, you have already, I guess, disqualified that idea. You are right that it is really hard to get clients at 15 years old, but you are wrong that it is not possible. You yourself said it. It's hard, but hard is not impossible. Okay. So what should you focus on? Depends on how bad you want it. If you want this, you want to get really good at it, then you should continue focusing on it. You should just know that you are facing an uphill battle as you do so. Superani says, hey, mentor, thank you so much for your advice. Thank you, Superani. Zaid says, sorry for lots of questions. I'm 14 years old, same one you answered before. All right, we're getting a lot of questions from young, ambitious people. I have a huge interest in AI automation, but I don't understand what I should do right now at my age. Should I just practice my skills of making automations or for sales, or for offer making, or for copywriting? Or should I send cold emails and just hope for a sale? Can you tell me what exactly should I do in this stage I'm in? I'm very confused. If I just practice on my skills now, but I fear that after some years, this business model may not remain or be as good. Thanks in advance. I think if you're running into questions about this site, you should focus on skills that are likely to be relevant in any age, regardless of whether or not the specific business model is not relevant. So skills that persist across time tend to be sales skills. They tend to be interpersonal skills. They tend to be things where you're just put in front of other people and you need to understand their needs, empathize with them, drill down into solutions, basically, to make a long story short, talking. I don't know if I'd recommend this business model at all for somebody at 14, let alone at 15. You know, it's all about how bad you want it, of course, but there are probably other things that you guys could be doing with your lives that would confer a bigger benefit. Probably one of the best things that I ever did in my entire life was I got this gig fundraising for this child sponsorship charity that was pretty big out in Vancouver, where I used to live. This gig was basically, my job was to stand on street corners with a bright pink vest and a bright pink binder, then stand on street corners in downtown Vancouver, then flag people down as they walked by to and from work and say, hey, you look like you want to sponsor a child in Africa for $40 a month. And as I'm sure you can imagine, that was probably one of the harder jobs that you could get these days. Like emotionally speaking, not like physically speaking. I was just on my feet for 8 or 9 hours. That wasn't that big of a deal. But getting rejected and pretending and having people pretend like you don't exist dozens of times a minute, realistically, is very, very, very impactful and teaches you social skills pretty dang quick. Not going to lie. So that to me was like a foundational accelerator for all of my later door-to-door skills, really all of my later business skills. And I think at 14 or 15, well, it may not be legal where you guys are, TUSIF and you as well. So I think looking into something like that might actually make the most sense, just off the top of my head. You know, I told my father that I had that gig. My mother was like, I can't believe you're doing this to yourself. That's terrible. You need to stop. You need to quit. This is stupid. You know, no son of mine is going to stand on a street corner and be spat at or be punched or pushed by random people on the street. And I get where she was coming from. I'm glad I stuck around though. My father looked at me in the eye and put his hand on my shoulder and he was like, this is going to be one of the best things you do for yourself. And I was like, So kudos to him for, I guess, having the future foresight or whatever to say that. And now, like, we talk about that pretty often. So maybe, you know, at your point, that's what you want to do, I would say. Okay, Leonid Shvorob. Hey, Leonid, what's going on, big dog? He's in Maker School. Says, that's so cool. Consistency over strategy. Ydara says, off topic, bro has RDJ eyes. Robert Downey Jr.? Interesting. Robert Downey Jr. is pretty handsome. I don't know about all this. Thank you very much, though. Kalka says, hey, Nick, thank you for the huge value. You're amazing. I wanted to ask about the post-Loom process. For example, if a prospect answers my cold email where I ask for their approval to send a Loom video. 2 questions, actually. Should I tell them about the offer on the Loom or have a cliffhanger to make them want to book a call? You should tell them everything on the Loom. And then you should tell them that you'll give them even more value on a call. If I send the Loom and don't hear back from them, should I follow up using high-value follow-ups, like sending assets or emphasizing on the value, knowing that if I don't have testimonials or case studies or any work that I've done for other people? Should I mention the guarantee on the Loom? Yeah, you should mention the guarantee on the Loom, and you should follow up with as high-value follow-up as possible. The reason is I sent a few Looms, and no one has got back to me so far, so I guess the Loom sucked. Any guidance is appreciated. Thanks. If you guys want another interesting story, back when I was going door-to-door for my first business, I had to talk to something like 3,000 businesses before any one of them paid me. That is me going into 3,000 business offices, knocking on the door saying, hey, how's it going? I'm Nick. I'm just walking across the street here, and I noticed that you guys don't have a Google My Business profile, over and over and over and over again. The reason is that you sent a few Looms and got no one getting back to you, so you guessed the Loom sucked. That thinking may just be off base. Fundamentally speaking, your Looms might not suck. You may just not have done enough outreach. So while I don't recommend having to send 3,000 Loom videos before getting any sort of response, you should probably anchor high, and you should know that in order to see results with this, you'll probably have to send like 20, 30, 40, 50 before you get any sort of warm reply whatsoever. Jared says it's now $9 a month to start. He's probably referring to Skool here because they just unleashed a plan. This is the $9 hobby plan. Thank you very much. STEM Accelerator says, this is the first videos that I watch, and after watching this full 56-minute video, I can confidently say the reason why you have the highest revenue per subscriber in your niche is because you give away so much value that it is impossible not to buy your paid stuff. Holy shit, is it already 8 o'clock? Oh my God. I'm supposed to fall asleep in 15 minutes. Well, I don't think I'm going to do that. Also love your discipline and consistency. Great job. Jessica says, yeah, his community is amazing. Been in it for a year. Hey, Jess, thank you very much. I really appreciate both of you guys. James says, thanks for the info. I got 1,000 members in my free Skool group and low numbers in my paid. Would you recommend not having a free group and just running a paid? It takes a lot of time to ascend them into the paid group. If you already have 1,000 free members, I would try and squeeze as much value out of them as I possibly could. I don't know if I would stop the group entirely because there's probably some juice in there. The free to paid conversion rates from what I've been able to glean from Skool, because I don't have one and I'm not a pro in communities, although I might be number one right now, tend to be pretty low, usually in the order of a few percentage points, just because you get a lot of tire kickers. So would I recommend not having a free group? No, I would just be cognizant of the fact that like you're probably not going to get that much value out of it. So I would try and convert as many of them as possible into the paid group, and then I would just change all of my inbound funnels directly to paid. And I would hope that you have enough value to make that proposition pretty clear, and then focus more on the traffic. So most of the questions that are coming up here in the near term, guys, are going to be about Skool, because I posted this thread inside of Skoolers, which is the Skool community for people that own Skool communities. And it went mega viral. And Sam and Alex and the team pinned it. And yeah, it now has 743 likes, 700 comments. It's one of like the most liked ones here, which is pretty badass. And in addition to that, Sam made a video where he specifically talked about this post, which was great. And so, I linked this video in the post, so a lot of these questions are just going to be about that, okay? So Andrian says, I disagree with one thing in the video. I do think building a backend SaaS is useful and can bring in a lot more money over time. You don't have to do anything. Just partner with a dev, go 50-50 or whatever, and let him build it. Once it's done, just share it to the Skool group. If you make your Skool group 9% better, sure, you might get more members, but existing members won't pay more for what they're already getting. I think this is a reasonable way of putting things. You would keep in mind that I am now making an investment. So it's not just the time that I'm spending, but it is also the money investment plus the time investment that I'm spending looking over that person's work. And I find in practice, it's rarely as simple as, oh, just pay somebody else to do it, because that person typically doesn't have my vision. They also don't have my knowledge or experience. So I am probably estimating the quality of the product will not be as good as if I had more control over it. And if the quality of the product is not good, I don't really want to pitch people in my community something that I don't really fully believe in or want, just for reputational purposes and also for their well-being. So I think I get what you're saying. And I think that, yeah, I get what you mean. And I'm updating more towards this being okay. But I don't think this would be my first decision regardless. Echo Explorer says, hey brother, quick question. How can I close my first ever client when I have no testimonials, no results, no case studies, and when you use sell before build strategy, and also with no money? How would you close your first ever client? You'd close them the same way you did if you had all of these things. You would fake it until you make it, basically, and you would imply that you have more experience than you probably do. Sucks, but it's one of those things where when you're at the start line of anything, when you're a heart surgeon doing your first heart surgery, do you go like, hey, how's it going, Pete? So I know you're about to go under, but it's my first heart surgery. Anyway, hope you're going to do fine. You'll be good. No, obviously you're like, hey, how's it going? I'm a heart surgeon. In an hour, we're going to put you under. We're going to take very good care of you. We're going to be extraordinarily detail-oriented, meticulous, and make sure that we take care of all of the problems that you have. And by the end of it, you'll be chip and on your way. Sound good? Okay, great. So that second vibe is the one that you're going to want to go for here, even if you've never done a heart surgery before. Hopefully what I'm saying makes sense. But if you have no testimonials, got to get your first. No results, got to get your first. No case studies at all. Odds are you're not really being creative enough. You might be young. If you're like 14 or 15, like Zaid and Tusa from before, you probably don't actually have case studies. But if you're older and you've worked a job or something, you probably have some case studies. But even if you didn't have case studies, you could still do it. F1D142 says, Nick, I'm wondering how the Upwork onboarding process will work. Let's say I get a client on Upwork and it requires me to build something like an AI video system. Would I then build it on N8N and I'll just pay for things like VO3 or other paid services just while I'm building? Then I'll send them the JSON and documentation on the API keys and whatnot, or would it be done some other way? Or, by the way, it's a one-time job. No, you would not actually do this, unfortunately. You don't just send them the JSON with this business model. What you do is you basically give them white glove service where you manage everything for them end to end. So if you're just giving them JSON, they're just going to treat you like an API endpoint where they give you a spec and then you just return them a file. That's not very valuable because, as I mentioned previously on this video and then many times before, um, the real value and leverage is not in the technical skills, it's in the sales skills and the ability to solve a problem. And so that's really what you want to focus on. Okay. Hopefully what I'm saying makes sense. But I recommend getting the client to pay for everything. So it's all in theirs. You can watch my previous video on this if you want like a more detailed walkthrough. All right. We are now going to be doing a quick roast of Azim Kodirov's channel. What's going on, Kodirov? Dude, that's got to be the most badass last name I've ever heard. Russian, I take it? I like that you have code literally in your name. So anyway, right off the bat, I think this is a really cool cover thing. Founder of Inspira AI, where we build 24/7 voice AI agents that answer support calls, recover lost sales, and help businesses grow on autopilot. If you're tired of missed calls, repetitive support, or losing revenue after hours, you are in the right place. We specialize in e-commerce, but our voice AI systems work for any businesses that rely on the phone to support or sell. Subscribe for real-world AI demos, automation strategies, and behind-the-scenes lessons on using voice AI to scale smarter. Want to discuss your future with voice AI? Book a free video intro chat. Welcome to the future of customer conversations. Dude, this looks pretty great to me. No major issues here. Nice work. I mean, your thumbnails are cool, but man, like when you actually go into your video, yeah, it looks a little rough. It just doesn't look as good. Oh, interesting. Okay. You're citing Liam. I like that. Doing some piggyback in here. Ooh, you got Alex Hormozy in your thumbnail. Clean. You are duplicating one of my thumbnails one for one. Nice. Don't hate the play, hate the game. Yeah, it seems pretty reasonable. Yeah, I mean, like, I don't really have too much advice. I would just say post more. Like if I go latest 12 hours, 5 days, 7 days, 12 days, 2 weeks, 1 month, 1 month, 1 month, 2 months. You're probably posting what, like once every 4 or 5 days or no? Skeptic City says, I just caught on to what Nick does. When there's a huge gap like this, when people ask questions, they'll keep watching to see the response. That way people are damn near addicted. Well done. Yeah, that's more or less it. You found me out? No, I'm just kidding. I didn't even realize this. It's pretty clean though. Mubarak Odeh says, hey Nick, I landed a client. They have a huge project that we're planning on working on. Tens of thousands of dollars. It's basically a way for clients to mortgage a house using a chatbot. I was wondering if you have any experience with that or if you know someone that'd be willing to work on the project with us and get compensated. Of course, videos are full of value and extremely helpful. Thanks. I think it depends on, how big the project is, but I mean, lots of people in Maker School for sure. I don't know if you're a part of Maker School. If not, maybe somebody else here wants to. Damn, you guys are like really just brutally crushing this guy. Starts a sentence with and is like, that's a no. Dude, I start a sentence with and all the time. I don't know what y'all are talking about. Your videos are full of value and extremely helpful. Thanks. So can I recommend somebody off the top of my head? I mean, like there are tons of people in Maker School. I don't know if you're a part of Maker School. If not, this is a good thing that you could do inside of Maker School. If you join, you can post job requests, get people in your team pretty quick. If not, if somebody else in Maker School would want to help this fella out, you could just go over here to the best AI agency services to offer in 2025. You could leave a comment down below and say, hey, I'm interested in helping you out with this. Maybe give you a 10% finder's fee if I land them. Just post it in Maker School and maybe you can help them. Trigger says, loving what you do here, man. Began applying to Upwork and setting up an email campaign, and I'm a little confused. While following your whimsical roadmap, I have 3 domains, one being my primary and the other 2 my secondary, or from what I understand, the sending domains. When I go to add users for the secondary domain, it charges me $8.40 a month for each. Is this normal? If so, great. I'm just caught off guard and not sure if I'm doing it right. Yeah, that's about right. So my recommendation nowadays is not actually to set up Google Workspace from scratch like this, just because that's going to be pretty expensive. My recommendation instead is head over to a done-for-you service like Zapmail or Inboxlogy, or there are a bunch of these other ones. Even Instantly has a done-for-you service now. And then just go with them. They make this process a lot easier and simpler. You don't have to do any of that DNS stuff, and then you also save a lot of money. On Zapmail, you save something like 51% on all of your costs, which is totally worth. Hopefully that makes sense. Gary Hustler says, he's about to hustle us. How about if you make the calendar public with the booked calls? Then anyone who wants to take the opportunity applies somehow with a quick loom. The act of them applying already means they are available for that booked call at that time. The video demonstrates the want for the opportunity. The quality of the video is your final decision point. For determining the quality of the video application, just set up an automation with a rubric scoring system that auto-emails the winning application with a calendar invite, then set it and forget it. It's pretty funny. I find this I'll be honest, Gary, like, I've talked to a lot of technical people, and I think that they tend to have pretty similar answers to you insofar that they give me some giant thing, and they're like, "Just do this, then set it and forget it." I can't set and forget that, man. There's no way I could set and forget that, because now I gotta look over these videos, right? And then you're thinking you can automate a system with some rubric that actually scores good quality video apps at this point in time? Ah, man, you can't do that right now. I don't believe you could do this reliably or reasonably whatsoever. For a number of reasons, but one that I don't really believe that AI is at a point where it can realistically determine taste at this point, or really like take my taste and apply it to people. There's just so much. I think, and this is me just hopefully not being like an AI doer, there's just so much overhead and like taste right now and like intuition. These aren't like knowledge-based processes that I can explicitly verbalize, but I tend to know when somebody is good, and I'm not sure why. Reminds me of that one guy with like the older gentleman with like the white hair that like just like vibes all the time. He's like the vibe coding guy. Okay, Damien Alvarez says, amazing videos. Been loving your stuff to help me get started on my agency journey. Love your style using the drawing tools you do. Just recently picks up an XP pen. Could you do a breakdown of your settings, apps, shortcuts, etc. to make the drawing board daily as effective as possible? I plan on using it for YouTube since I love doing the Miro style brain maps and flowcharts and was about to buy an iPad strictly for drawing before seeing your XP pen recommendation. Thanks in advance, Nick. Yeah, for sure. It's just a USB-C that goes directly from my XP pen to my laptop. Then I use this pen to draw directly on the board. I use a couple of different apps. One of them is LucidSpark over here. And I also use one called Presentify on my Mac, where if I hold Control and A, then I can also draw on my screen. There's a variety of different things you could do. One of my favorite funny things to do is this rainbow color one, where every time you draw, it picks a color and then does some like little rainbow gradient thing. And then I just do that while I record using OBS. And that's that. So nothing super magical here, but hopefully that clarifies. Jonathan says, thanks for the valuable insights and the value you share. Curious, how do you go about implementing AI infrastructure for a blue-collar company looking to scale? Are there specific tools or AI services you'd recommend to take ops to the next level and beyond? Yeah, 100%. I'm all about blue-collar companies that are looking to scale. Variety of different things you can do for blue-collar companies, but I think what I'm probably going to do is just say how I'd automate a plumbing company. This one right over here. Yeah, just check out this video. It's very in-depth on how to automate a plumbing business. And I'm not going to say it's the most exciting exciting video I've ever made, but it's pretty cool. Jen, what's going on, big guy? He's from Make Money with Make. Something that could be a great value if you can't do your own sales calls. Have members in your communities do sales calls that you can roast or educate on what you would have done or said. It's similar to this guess their level approach to gaming or sports. Would definitely be more infotainment. Infotainment, you can have an incentive built in for your submissions. Editors can stack multiple videos for you to do to be able to react live as well. He had a daily update vid last week. Sometime with a live video recorded sales call was helpful to see. Agreed. Hey, Nick, just got into AI automation. Thank you very much for this, Jen. Yeah, you also sent me this via DMs. I already reviewed this and I talked with you about this. Just got into AI automations from Fervado. Super excited for what this holds. Just had a question. Does your school offer a finance option or something? No, it does not, unfortunately. No financing, no discounts, no nothing. I hate to be that guy, but just doesn't really make sense for me. There's just way too much demand to get in, you know? Wilfried Tebby says, yo man, I'm just starting cold outreach for my voice AI agency in real estate. I basically have an intro offer, dead lead reactivation system again with 5 new appointments in 10 days if they don't pay. What's your take on this, or what would you have done differently? 5 appointments in 10 days? I mean, this is going to be pretty variable. What I would do is I would use this to get people on the call, and then I would qualify them on the call to see if they have a dead lead reactivation system, if they have a dead lead list of more than maybe like 500 people or something. If they do, I think that you could probably get them super easily, but if they don't, then maybe I wouldn't. 500 is just a number that I'm throwing out here, but that's how I would do it. I would heavily lead with a guarantee to get people on a call. Once they're on a call, then you can just be your charming self and win them over. Ziad says, what are your thoughts in dedicating a cold LinkedIn DM campaign to podcast hosts? Sell them podcast repurposing automations. What Apollo keywords would you even start to find podcast hosts, and how do you approach the outreach campaign in general? I've actually shown exactly how to do this on the lead generation side of the build in public side of my daily updates. So I don't remember exactly which video this is in, but I have like a very lengthy process where I went through and I found a bunch of podcast hosts using, I think, LinkedIn Sales Navigator filters, and then I pumped them into Vane.io and then found leads. So would I do this again? No, I'm not going to do this again. But suffice to say, there is the knowledge that you are looking for. Just go through and get the lead generation videos that I posted probably about like a week and a half ago before the whole school games thing, and then just like see if you could pump around and find that specific podcast one, because it deals specifically with this. Zalk says, for the lead giving thing, do your own Skool games inside your community. People with the most value or the highest outreach get those leads. It's a win-win-win situation. What a great idea. Zorp says, hey, Nick, it's not an AI agency question, just taking your advice and targeting digital rather than local. Maybe you can give me some insight on whether or not this market is too saturated. I want to build an email marketing agency for e-com brands. Thought I could stand up by focusing only on brands that have a subscription. No, I don't think that's too saturated. I think you could totally do it. I mean, there's a reason why I'd focus on AI-related services because it allows me to benefit from, the newness and shininess of AI while also still, selling like a money-making opportunity. So like AI is the main reason why I'm in this space. Sorry, AI is not the main reason I'm in this space. The main reason I'm in this space is because I believe that I can help drive revenue or savings. But AI is flashy and sexy, so it allows me to offer this to people as like a money-making opportunity for both plausible deniability and interest. So I mean, if you could find a way to slap some AI on that, Zorps, you do pretty well. My 2 cents anyway. Health Maxing Germany says thanks. Thanks to you too. Fabi Mark says, for me, a Skool group is not an option, as I don't have a result I achieve that others would pay to learn, and I'm confident I can support them with. Well said. Anonymous TW4M says, hey Nick, just launched my own agency with a dedicated site on LinkedIn profile. Focus on helping hotels, clinics, and hospitals by providing voice agents to support and strengthen front desk and customer service ops. Right now, arranging offline meetings with local businesses to walk them through the solution, show them how it works, the problems it solves, and the impact of their operations. To support this, I'm working on a presentation deck. Can you guide me on the key elements I should include in the presentation to make it compelling and relevant? Key elements to include in the presentation. In a nutshell, my recommendation for you is just to have a couple key points. The first thing that I would always have on any call is, why are you here? So this just clarifies, why they responded to your outreach or whatever. After they're done answering why you are here, then I would just do like click to goodbye. So I need a better way to say this. Hormozy always says click to close, but click to goodbye. What's the first place that they see the business or the hotel, clinic, or hospital? And then what's the end of your relationship? What is every step along the way from start to finish? After that, you have everything that you need in order to basically pitch them. You have the reason why they're here, which is going to tell you about the needs, the magnitude of the problem, if you ask some smart follow-up questions, and what their pain points are. Then you're also going to have like a full run through their funnel, which will allow you to like position this as something that can fill some gaps in their funnel as well. Okay. Plan to offer 2 pricing models, monthly sub with setup cost and performance-based pricing. What are your suggestions on the best platform or tools to build voice agents specifically for these industries, and any advice in structuring the pricing or closing deals effectively? Yeah, pricing, I would do monthly subscription with setup costs. That's how I do that. Any tools, I would just use Vappy. I'm not an AI voice agent pro, so I can't really help you too much there. But that is what I would recommend. Billy Harris Health says, would you be open to sharing your top 3 traffic sources for your Skool? Yeah, for sure. It's YouTube, Instagram, and then probably Skool itself. I don't know. But definitely YouTube is like 90%, and then Instagram's like 10%. So, I mean, I don't even know if I have a third traffic source. Yod Be It Yod says, when selling a cold email system, would you recommend selling only leads or selling booked calls? The way I see it, in the former option, I need to give them access to different email inboxes to the client. In the latter, I can charge more because we're further down the acquisition pipeline, but I'm the one who needs to answer all emails before the disco call. My recommendation is to sell booked calls. That's what you want. You don't want to sell leads. You want to sell booked calls. Booked calls and leads are sort of conflated nowadays. So I would just like strip it all away. A lead, I wouldn't even use the term lead. I'd use prospect. A prospect is just somebody whose information you have. And then a booked call is somebody who has agreed to a meeting that you have on a calendar for your client. So yeah, focus on that. House of Shaves Barbershop says, great fit. What software do you use to record your YouTube videos? OBS Studio. That's Open Broadcast Studio. Michael says, I suck at sales calls. Hearing yours is a game changer for me. If you want to do the sales calls and want to do 100 times the work, you can download the transcript, parse out your voice and theirs, send out the transcript to 11 labs, merge the 2 files, and tell AI to cut out all sensitive details. I could, but that would lose most of the perceived value of me being on a sales call, right? Thank you for that, though, Mike. Mike's in Make Money with Mike, and he's been crushing it recently. Thiago says, hey, thanks for all the value you give us every day. I have a question. What are the 3 books that have the biggest impact on you and why? And what book would you recommend to me, an 18-year-old AI entrepreneur? Probably Atomic Habits, Compound Effect by Darren Hardy, and then The Goal by Eli Goldratt. Please add international audio language. Kenny. No. Jan Dusek says, yo, hi, Nick. I'm a 17-year-old from Central Europe with a pretty good English level. I want to start my own agency after buying your Skool community and scale it in my country and potentially start getting clients from English-speaking countries because of the higher budgets. Do you think it's possible in this age, and how far could I potentially scale this business? Frodo says, age is no factor. It's the drive you have, to be honest. Good luck, man. I would agree with Frodo here, although I'd probably say it a little bit differently. I think you could do whatever the heck you want, really. It's just a matter of time and consistency. I had a friend of mine a while ago say, of course you're going to be rich, Nick. You think about being rich all the time. Anybody that thinks about becoming rich as much as you do will inevitably become rich. It is stupid to think otherwise. That was hard for me to hear at the time, but that ended up being one of the most relieving things anybody could have said to me. That guy was my business partner at the time, Gurinder, and he currently runs a growth partner sort of operation. I think he just closed some new deal, probably for like 50 or 60K rev again. And I consider it some of the most profound stuff anybody's ever told me. So just passing that on to you, Jen. If you want to do this, you can make it however far you want. It is possible. Of course it is possible. How far could you potentially scale this business? As far as you want. Anybody that thinks about this stuff, as much as, let's say, I do, will inevitably be successful with it. So if you want to be super successful and scale this all the way to the top, you just think about it a lot. So that one's all on you, my brother. Really appreciate the work you're doing here on YouTube and how you take the time to reply every comment. Very inspiring. I'm 16 and working with a $0 budget. How can I start getting clients? So if you had a $0 budget, it's going to be pretty tough. I wouldn't actually recommend doing this with a $0 budget. If you're at 16, maybe go wait some tables or something like that for a couple of months and then come back to this with a $200 budget. And now you can start making some moves. Okay, that's really just my honest advice to you. Just no need to start with a $0 budget. Now, if you're at a $0 budget and you want to do all this stuff, you're probably just like putting the cart before the horse here. You're going to have to do some stuff you don't want to get the things that you really want, right? And so if getting a job is something you don't want to do, then maybe just start with that. Hell, man, like mow some lawns. I don't know, do something. But just start with this from not a $0 budget. Probability of success is much, much higher. I've already built a system that generates icebreakers. Do you think I should also build a system for sending emails instead of using platforms like Instantly? No, I do not. I recommend that you get some money and then just use Instantly. It'll solve 99% of these problems for you. Does your business sound like one with good potential? Well, he builds custom chatbots. He also makes widgets that can be easily integrated into websites. So does it sound like a business with good potential? Yeah, it's reasonable. I wouldn't worry too much about it. It's just distribution for you. Brady says, what's your advice on how to make and sell your very first build? Should it be an automation, a website chatbot, etc.? I think it should be a simple procedural end-to-end automation that solves a simple problem for customers. You should scope it really nice and tightly. You should deliver it, and then you should upsell them on some related project that handles a problem that you found while you were doing the building for this project. Hey, Pete, really, I hope you like the project. I had a lot of fun putting it together. While I was doing X, Y, and Z, I thought I saw a place that I might be able to make you $3,000 to $5,000 a month more. I know it's totally out of left field. I know I don't want to overstep my boundaries here, but would this be something you might be interested in? Odds are if you just delivered and over-delivered, they will say yes. Somebody here is saying, is it still possible to make $10,000 a month with this for the next year? Absolutely, Giorgio. Drew says, for your sales calls, can't you record them off camera, upload the transcript, and generate a new voice and not show their video? For sure. But I think the answer to that is similar to the answer I gave earlier. Thank you, though, Drew. Question says, Second Chance Pastor. I find you doing end-to-end automations, but I have the GHL software and it seems what I was learning was redundant. Maybe I'm missing why I would build and then monitor end-to-end workflows over GHL. No real reason, if I'm being completely honest. It depends on the depth of the problems that you're trying to solve and the sorts of businesses you're working with, but I think GoHighLevel is like a good stopgap for most people. In my experience, GoHighLevel gets you 80% of the way there on everything right out of the box. If you want to squeeze that additional 20%, like you need a no-code tool to be able to really get down into the weeds. I studied comp science instead of neuro, says Aaron, but I learned about the context fatigue from an audiobook. Switching context kills the compounding effect. Horrible idea and appreciate the reminder. Damn dog, I love the way you sell and structure your belief setting system. Thank you. 5339, we're seeing the younger version of Mosey. That is a hell of a compliment. I really appreciate it. Nevmana says, let's go, Nick. Thank you very much. Lewis says, hey, Nick, had my first sales call yesterday. It was an Upwork prospect. I've been doing sales for 2 years now, but it's B2C sales. I'll be honest, I thought I could figure it out, but I quickly realized I've not got a clue. I have 2 questions. How should I pitch these systems from start to close of the call? And how do I onboard the client and explain this on a call? So I'm explaining what to do in terms of the tools they need and sending proposals and whatnot. Great work. So how do you pitch these systems from the start of the call? Hopefully, earlier on, assuming you were watching, you saw how I would recommend doing this. Ask them why the hell they're here. And then once they've told you why the hell they're here, you will hopefully have an idea and understanding of some of their pain points. And if you don't, you can ask follow-up questions. No issues with that whatsoever. Then once you're done with them, then I like the language here. Go click all the way to the goodbye of the prospect in their own pipeline. That'll show you where you can patch holes, let's say. How do you onboard the client? Just do it on a kickoff call. Just tell them it's going to be like 30 minutes or so. By the end of this call, you're going to have everything. I'm going to have everything that I need to knock this project out of the park for you. And I'm not going to need to bother you in the middle of the night with some random text message 2-factor authentication requests. We're going to start by setting up these platforms. And then we're going to move to X, Y, and Z. We're going to set some expectations. We're going to run it through timelines. It's going to be a lot of fun. Sound good? Awesome. Hey Nick, says F1D142. For your IG Reels, do you have an editor or do you do it yourself? I have an editor for sure. J13 says, love the daily content, Nick. Learning tons from you. Thank you. Crazy says, you're a demo on title. I love your content, but I was waiting for a sales call. I swear to God, this is freaking clickbait. It was clickbait. Joel says, hey man, wanted to create a lead gen system for private jet rentals. Wanted to connect them to business coaches who have their ideal clients in their network and they gain a commission. What are your thoughts on this? Lead gen system for private jet rentals sounds pretty badass. Are you doing kind of like affiliates or, oh, I see what you're doing. A referral-based system where you connect business coaches to private jet rentals, and then the business coaches have ideal clients in their network that they gain a commission from. You could totally do this. Game Squad says, Nick, if I were to start an AAA and I have the budget of $100 and then $50 in the upcoming months, how would you spend it? I want to use N8N, so include the plan too. Please tell me how you price everything. Please excuse me if the budget seems low since I'm a college student. Yeah, if you have the budget of $100, honestly, my answer to this might be similar to my previous answer. I would just probably get a little bit more money. No use starting this stuff and putting the cart before the horse. You have like no money, then you're probably going to just take a million times more time to do anything simple here. It's kind of like, hey, Nick, how do I run a marathon in a wheelchair or something? It's like, I mean, it's possible. It's just going to be way harder for you. You know, like your forearms are going to be really tired after a while. And it's like, you know, if the condition that you are in is one that you can get out of a wheelchair from given enough time, I would not do the marathon until your legs or whatever are healed to the point where you can, you know, go for a walk or whatnot. Let's say you were in a car accident. You know what I mean? One of those situations where it's like, yeah, you could do it. You're just making it really hard on yourself. Anyway, how would you spend it? I'd spend most of it on cold email probably. I do some sort of like done for you email, and then I just like start using cold email as hyper leverage to sell my services and systems. Sinatra says the green border is back. Prudiv says, thank you very much, Sinatra. Prudiv says you're a huge help to people. So I'm a little worried about how expensive it is to start an AAA. I'm an Indian student. I'm wondering that if I do wait until I raise money through some other source, the opportunity is going to go away. Also worried about how much I need to sell stuff for. Let's say I made a schedule reminder with a reschedule option for missed meetings. How much do I price it at? Can I even sell it? Is it even valuable? I've heard we can sell them to coaches, but I'm not sure. And pricing too, since I use N8N starter with only 2.5K executions. I understand that you're worried about this, but if you're being honest, if I'm being honest, I would take a look at all other business models, and I think you'll quickly realize that this is still by far one of the cheapest and lowest barrier to entry models that anybody could ever get into. So while I understand your concerns, and it probably seems pretty high to you, I think once you gain more understanding of the business landscape in general, you probably will stop saying this. Capital cost of really any other business is on the order of thousands, if not tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars. This is on the order of a few $100s realistically. Anyway, how do I price this? I don't actually suggest pricing this just like $455. My recommendation for you instead is try and determine the value of a system like this to a client in terms of the time and money that they are saving. Once you're done with that, time and money that they're saving plus the opportunity cost of not having the system. Once you're done with that, just like pitch it at about 30% or so, or whatever that value is. Okay. I'll give you an example in a sec. Let me just close this door. And hopefully I'm not going to run out of battery on my camera. That would kind of suck. Yeah, so I mean, like, let's say your reschedule option for missed meeting system would save the client $500 a month. And then in terms of opportunity costs, it'd make them another $1,000 a month. You charge it at 30% of that. So you could realistically get away with about a $450 a month system charge. Okay. Excuse me. EDM Tool says, I just started a community inspired by your success. Love what you do and how you do it. Mine's called EDDM Skool, and I share information and tools with my audience to help them with direct mail that I've built in the past year. Only a few minutes in your video, but knowing how you do these, I know it's going to be a video I'll need to keep top of mind. Thank you. Great work, man. 9to5 Escaper says, hey Nick, I had this question in my mind for such a long period of time. When you sell templates, you just give the workflow to the client and walk them through the setup live, or do you self-host it from your N8N server, or do you set it up using AnyDesk and his PC using Cloud Console N8N? No, what I do is I get the client on a kickoff call. I have them sign up to all the platforms for me. I get their username, password, email, all the credentials added to OnePass, and then I verify and do all the connections and authorizations that I need before I even start. Before I even get off the call. Then I just build it all on their server. I do not sell AI automation templates, and I would highly recommend you do not sell AI automation templates either. I would recommend you sell a managed service. Okay. Yano says, I wonder if you can replace the voice of the client with an AI-generated version somehow to cover up the client in some sensitive specs. Can change the specs data to create anonymity, but requires a second pass of the call. Great idea. Artemi says, hey Nick, really love the content. Just wanted to ask, if I have 1,600 leads, but I'm not exactly sure what AI service to offer them, do you think it's a good idea to send out personalized cold emails like in your tutorial with a survey to uncover their pain points, then use that info to figure out the best service to provide? Yeah, I think that's reasonable. Yeah, I think so. I wouldn't do a survey though. I would just try taking the 1,600 leads, cutting it into chunks, so maybe 400, 400, 400, 400, and then just assuming one problem for each, and then construct an offer that deals with that one problem, then send it out to 400, 400, 400, 400 people. Because people typically don't like the survey angle. They don't like the audit angle. These just don't perform very well. They're not very sexy. Who the hell wants to be sold an audit, right? You'd much prefer to be sold the palliative cure to all of your problems, or the cure-all thing. So that's what I would do. Just assume their problems and then solve them preemptively. Jack Bigger says, great video, Nick. Helped a lot. Thank you, Jack. Sergio says, Nick, I have a question. What actor do you use for scraping Medium and Apify? Read it in your newsletter, but there's no info for the actor. I'm not really sure. I'm just going to type in Medium here to Apify and we'll find out ourselves. I'm not seeing very many. It must be this one here. Yeah, it's this one, Ivan VS. The Dale and Landor says, Nick, I have a client that wants email lead gen. Do I do the automations on the client's account or do I do it on my account? You do it on the client's accounts 100%. Congrats on that first client, Dale. It's awesome seeing you win, man. Amazon's Hidden Gem says, love your videos. Just wanted to ask how you go about selling AI lead generation for beginners with no experience. Just started an Instantly campaign. Want to know the best way to structure my offer as a newbie. Sounds great, man. Hopefully at this point, you've seen the answer to that at the beginning of this call. To make a long story short, just get a structure going and then stick to that structure. James says, Nick, I love your videos. For real, you're the GOAT. I swear to God, thank you. 9to5 Escaper says, what's your best-selling AI automation workflow in the niche of marketing a lead gen? It is a lead gen cold email automation. I basically did Instantly wrappers, and then I also had a Google Drive where you just dropped a big lead list that you exported from Apollo in. It did all the AI personalizations, imported it into Instantly, and then automatically added it to an ongoing campaign. Harshit gave me some hearts. Deshaun says, do you have any Indians winning in your community? I'm thinking of joining. Hopefully you saw back there that I did. I have plenty. Abib says, hey, Nick, love your stuff. Can you answer how will we as automators be affected with the advance of agents like ChatGPT agent or Perplexity's comment? They're going to be doing a huge chunk of our processes and simplifying it. I still think there's going to be a market gap for us for a while, maybe some months, but these agents are going to get better and better in the future. How should we position ourselves then? Are we bound to be overtaken by these agents in the future? Yes, absolutely. We're 100% going to be overtaken by these agents in the future economically. And it's not just us, it's everybody in the economy that does any sort of knowledge work. And very quickly after that, anybody that does any sort of like economic work through robotics. So it's not a question of, is this going to happen? It's a question of when. And at the point when that does happen, it doesn't really matter. There's just no real way that any of us could know how the economy is going to go. It's not like human beings are going to have much economic value. So with 7 or 8 or 9 billion of us probably by that point in time, with zero economic value produced by any one of them, I'm sure you can imagine the government's going to have to find a way to make sure that we can continue living on a planet that doesn't really have any economic or material value produced by humans. So instead, we need to change the value that we identify with from economic value to something else, right? Make a long story short. That's the philosophical answer. And then practically, yeah, for sure. But the value that you have right now is not actually the value you have as a technical person. It's the value that you have as a person, a consultant that is capable of taking a problem that the company is suffering from and then solving it with a technical solution, or positioning it as being solvable by a technical solution and then giving them the means to solve that problem, whether it is yourself building the technical thing or you having somebody in your team or you using AI agents to build your flow. So that's where the value is. It's more in the sales. So how do you insulate yourself against this? You just get better at that sales side of things, and specifically the consulting side of things. John 1 says, if I choose coaches and consultants as my niche, do I need to focus on businesses in my area? I live in SK, South Korea, but would prefer to target clients in the US or other regions. Some have suggested against this, that closing deals with international clients would be like shooting yourself in the knee. Is that true? It is not like shooting yourself in the knee, although you do have to be wary of time differences. If you're in South Korea and then other people are in the United States, that's a pretty big time gap, I think. At minimum, like 10 hours or so ahead or behind? 10 hours ahead or like 14 hours behind? Anyway, something like that. So keep that in mind. Do I focus on businesses in my local area? I'd probably focus on businesses in South Korea. I'd focus on businesses in Japan. I might focus on businesses in Singapore as well. Anything Commonwealth if you can. Probably go to Australia within a few hour time gap. Just because these countries will have a higher GDP per capita. I have a couple of clients, says Vijay. And one big challenge is clients constantly wanted to tweak or add more stuff. It slows everything down, just hurts profitability. Any advice on how to manage expectations or set better boundaries so clients don't keep asking for changes? Or is it my own fault for doing a bad job? Abhishek says it's a scoping problem. Scope out the outcomes and the required features for that outcome as early in the project as possible, then leave some buffer to accommodate any reworks, which can be used for a bunch of new things. Chris also chimes in, saying that after signed proposal, collaborate on a user requirement spec, which essentially would outline the very detailed scope they'd need. Imagine goes way deeper in detail than your proposal did, and have them sign off on that user requirement specification doc. These are really interesting points here, and I would agree in spirit with both of you guys. I think, Vijay, you should also just like readjust client expectations and imply that while you're happy to do these changes, you're not just going to be led around like a dog on a leash and forced to do them as well. So part of this is a soft skill issue, I think. I think if you had better soft skills, you could probably solve this without having to resort to like holding a gun to their head and saying, no more freaking revisions. And I think that these are tools that will assist you in that. But if you have this and still don't have those soft skills and those boundary setting skills, it's not really going to matter too much either. Ibir Ramadan says, Nick, thanks for all the value. Been following for a while now. When automating LinkedIn and Instagram outreach, what tips do you have to ensure the AI-generated content sounds as human as possible? Obviously, I'll use a template, so the whole thing isn't AI-generated, but apart from that, anything else? Thanks in advance and keep killing it, man. Yeah, great question. From a prompt engineering perspective, the simplest and easiest way to get more accurate outputs, higher quality stuff, is you just give it 3 to 5 examples of what you want. Feed them in as user assistant pairs. Don't feed them in as just as like, hey, here's an example. Like actually pretend you're feeding them an input and then pretend you're feeding them the output. And as long as you do it in your own tone of voice, it'll also significantly improve the probability that the next output is in your tone of voice as well. Chal Magian says, the problem with Upwork and talking solution-aware prospects is you're competing on price in a race to the bottom. This is technically correct, but I think that you are assuming that it's a perfect and hyper-efficient market. The reality is it is not. Talking solution-aware prospects is like the problem with talking solution-aware prospects and the fact that you're competing on price or whatever is also not necessarily true all the time. There are many instances in which you would not compete on price. You can compete on a number of other things as well that aren't price. And then additionally, you pretty much always have to do this race to the bottom analogy anytime you're doing Upwork, but people don't realize that you do the same thing on anything else. The idea that there aren't, like, let's say, significantly cheaper, offshore laborers in cold email markets and in community markets and in pay-per-click ad markets and stuff like that is pretty false. I mean, there's like super low-cost labor everywhere. So the problem is more so just how you're framing this initially. There are many things to compete on that aren't price. So yeah, and then also think about it like, if the cost to this is that you have to be more competitive on price, then the benefit to talking to solution-aware prospects is you just have to do way less work. Do you know what I mean? So like, I understand what you're talking about, but this is like an academic way that you're phrasing this. In reality, life is not just academics, right? Proxy me 8645 says, now you are talking. Well, I've been talking the whole time. Blessings of the day, Nick. Definitely the great. Thank you very much, Cash Rolls. Thanks for your valuable content. Was wondering, is there any kind of business which requires zero upfront investment and can pay me around 1 to 2K per month, and then I can put a little bit to get few premium tools to scale the business to 5, 10K or even more? I think it's called a job, to be completely honest, or it's just some sort of like very low level freelancing, like you doing some content writing or whatnot. Basically, if you don't have any money and if you don't have the ability to make any upfront investment, you need some skills. So it's hard for me to suggest this without skills. Kuya says, hey, I'm RD. I'm a freelancer who specializes in automations in general, but I'm also a VA. My client recommended you and he added me to your Skool as well. Just can't comment because I'm using his account. Followed your free tutorials on YouTube. You should not be doing this. If I know who the guy is that is allowing you to use his account, I'm going to have to ban him, unfortunately, just because we can't have people doing account sharing here. So you might want to keep this one under wraps, buddy. Aside from my full-time clients, I was able to get 6 additional clients, 2 retainers giving me an additional $1,000 a month using your method. The rest are project-based, and they keep coming back, making sure I give them the best. They come from Upwork and OLJ combined. For that, I'm very thankful to you. Great work, Kuya. Spend some of that money on Maker Skool before I ban the hell out of you, buddy. Now for the next step, I don't know. I was really thinking of having my own AI agency, but I just don't know what to do next. So I'm confused about the difference of running an agency or a freelancer. Do I need to know anything different than what I'm doing right now? Just looking for clients and job postings? No, at the start line, an agency and a freelancer are the exact same thing, to be honest. It's just you fulfilling a service, and that's more or less it. It is, a few months out as you start to scale and start being unable to fulfill everything by yourself that you start hiring and start like building in agency infrastructure. So I would continue doing what you're doing. It's coolly working and making you a disproportionate amount of money, Kuya. And fix up that damn account thing. Matthew says, love these videos, become a part of my daily routine now. Thank you very much. I appreciate you, Potato. The Elite Life says, hey, Nick, first off, thanks for all the value. Been following you for a while now. I'm a 16-year-old boy from India following you for the last 6 months. Help me build my personal brand. I just started my agency 2 days ago. Please help me outreaching clients because I'm afraid that they may judge me by my age. I understand where you're coming from. Hopefully I provided sufficient justification at this point to say that while you can do it, it is definitely going to be more difficult. The outreach methods that you're going to want to use are going probably not to be the simple straight line path, Upwork, like I usually recommend to people, just because you're going to be banned on that platform if you go too early. It's probably going to be more so like LinkedIn DMs, Instagram DMs, customize Loom videos on these platforms. And you can also look at creative solutions like working with somebody that might be a little bit older to be the face of the business while you use your youth and your ambition and obviously your intellect to fulfill projects in the back end or something. Veek says, "Hey Nick, just wanted to say thanks for all the value you bring with your videos. Your clean format and tips make them a pleasure to watch. I have a question about building and selling. Do I actually need to have a registered company to sell services? No. And how do you usually structure your offers? Do you prefer one-time payments for your services, monthly retainers, or a mix of both? Mixture of both. You start with one-time to get people in the door, and then you upsell them to retainer to maximize the conversion because now you've demonstrated return on investment on a short-term scope project. Do you have any advice or methods for figuring out how to price your services in a way that matches the value delivered to your clients? Yes, it's called value-based pricing. To make a long story short, I would just look up value-based pricing Nick Saraev and then click on this video, and it should solve most of all the problems that you're having with this. The 6T says, building a community on every smart man sharing knowledge. Thank you. Logi says, I vote for you 1,000,000%. I really appreciate it. Running for president of Canada over here. Abhinav says, hey Nick, I absolutely love how much value you're providing with this content. I just wanted to ask, been sending cold email, replies are pretty solid, but I'm losing these leads with the reply. How should I approach the reply if the prospects ask for more information? What are the key points to keep in mind while replying? I think this is an awesome question, Abhinav. Great work generating leads. For you, it's just now a question of converting them into calls. And this makes sense. The more you do this, the further down the problem stack you're going to go. So how to actually do it in a simple, easy way, create a macro on Instantly or whatever tool you're using to do cold emails that replies with something like, hey, first name, thanks so much for getting back to me. Sure, I can help you with that. X, Y, Z. What you do is next time you get a reply, you go in and you answer the questions. When you do it, you swap out the XYZ with the questions, and now you have a macro that like templates out a nice sounding email that you can send in maybe like a minute or so. Now, in terms of how to respond to the specifics of the question, I would go and I would give them what they are looking for, but I would always be vague in the specific service implementations. For instance, if they're like, hey, so how exactly does this work? And it's like a cold email system, you'd probably say something like, hey, we use AI to source and then personalize each email so that it seems like it's written by hand by a person that's done a lot of research into them. We then have a email management flow that does X, Y, and Z. Simple and easy way to give them the 80-20, give them something that sounds pretty cool, lets you benefit off of AI, which I think is very valuable to associate with, without actually like giving them everything. Then at the end of the call, just make sure you're constantly suggesting, at the end of the email, make sure you're constantly suggesting that you want to get them on a call. Shimi says, valuable video. Right at the beginning, you had traffic as number 5 in your menu to talk about. Are you planning a video on traffic? Showing up at the community every day will keep churn down, but it won't bring in new people. Surely that's attributed to the amount of content you create on YouTube. Absolutely, Shimi. I really appreciate you pointing this out. I did have that in the video that I made here, and I will be including some sort of guide on traffic. Business Griffin says, Nick, totally the most logical numbers-based person I know. In a good way, of course. Cheers. Thank you. Synthil gives me some hearts. 9-to-5 escaper, those two creative minds together. I think that the elite life has now said the same thing, so I'm just going to remove this. Crazy Olad says, are your YouTube comments automated, dog? No. How about Nate making agents and you selling them? That's great. I'd love that. QSM says, appreciate this so much. Was just planning on starting my own community. Then you drop this. Thanks a ton. Hands down the most valuable channel in the AI space for me. Thank you. Dean says, Nick and Nate, love it, dudes. You both are awesome teachers and inspirational individuals. Thank you. Yash says, good to hear us both. Goat, Diamond, Fire, thank you. Pratik says, good to see you both together. Love and all the best to both of you. Big fans. Dude, guys, you guys are just making me cry over here. Andre says, love the free advice you're giving on the internet. Just wondering about one thing. Whenever I want to make an automation, potentially find a business that'd be willing to pay for it, I either see someone like you giving it away for free or someone claiming to recreate that same automation with AI. Can you tell me how I come up with an automation people just can't find on the internet for free and would actually have to hire me to help them? Everybody can find anything that they need online for free at this point in time. We basically live in the future, man. It's like luxury space communism future, okay? We're in giant Wall-E size spaceships, just doing whatever the hell we want. Knowledge is free. We have talking robots. You're not being paid for coming up with a new solution that has never been built before. You're just being paid for solving a need. All of these people have the ability to figure out how to do the stuff that you are doing for them. Anybody can do anything, right? It's just you can do it a lot easier and better for them. And you can pitch the problem to them and the solution in a simple way that they can understand. So you can sell any one of these things. You can take a template and turn it into a managed service, and that's fine. You're probably just in the network, the Netflix effect overload right now, where there's just so many things you don't really know which one to start. Posh Sim says, I love this setting for you guys. Thank you. Burn says, love this one, and the business model talk was great. Had a blast seeing you both this weekend, and congrats on the one. Thank you very much, my brother. It was awesome seeing you too. Thank you very much. And Marie Cohen gives me 2 goats. Just 2, Cohen? Brody says, didn't expect such a great video in 2025. Thank you both for being open. Thank you, Brody. Holy crap, my 2 idols in one video. Never thought I'd see the day. Appreciate it, Ralph. Broda Collab says, SLM 10 New York. My 2 favorite YouTubers. Didn't realize you guys know each other. Yeah, man, Nate's a friend of mine. We text all the time. We met down in San Francisco, but before then we did some video calls. Thank you, Senthil. Hey, Oleg, what's going on, big dog? You want to talk templates? You got to talk to this guy. This guy scraped all of every AI automation creator's templates and then posted them in a video called, like, get every AI automation creator's template here. Insane. Insane. I have nothing to say to that, but respect on the system. Don't hate the play, hit the game, right? Recibus says the qualified vendors list to hand off leads to is an excellent idea. Yet another way to add value to your programs. Thank you very much, Russ. Zaid says, oh my God, the giants have gathered. Thank you for this lovely video. Thank you. Orobo Miracle says, but the Skool website's been on maintenance. Orobo, you may live in Nigeria. Skool has blocked Nigeria. If this is the case, you may need a VPN of some kind in order to access the services. Apologies on that. I didn't make that decision, of course. I believe it was a financial decision driven primarily by just the number of refund requests that they were getting from people in that country. I think that you could still probably join Skool if you wanted to, but that is why you're getting that maintenance request. Richie says, the link up we love to see. Let me drive you guys next time. Sure, my bro. Please do. We got a 13-year-old from Lithuania over here asking, what are the most important things I should learn as a beginner? And if you can you coach me? It'd be a great content idea. Not going to coach you, and it's not because I don't love you and think that you have it in you to succeed. Just probably not the most profitable thing I could be doing with my time. What are the most important things to learn as a beginner? You should learn immediately right now that nothing that you think you need to know. You should learn right now that you don't need to know 100% of anything to move forward. In reality, you only need to know about 70%. So you probably have a rough feeling on what the most important things you have to learn are. I would just take that rough 70% feeling and go with it. If you get in the habit of doing this right now, you'll be able to move much, much faster. Alex says, love your content. What's your cold email infrastructure? Instantly, I use Apollo and or LinkedIn Sales Navigator as sources, and then I scrape them using Apify and or Vane right now. Alex says, this video's fire. Nick dominates. Listen to him. Thank you very much. FYI, Skool just dropped a new $9 a month hobby plan. Game changer for still sitting on the fence. No more excuses. Oh yeah, sorry. I must have not mentioned that. Yeah, I really appreciate it, guys. This is a channel where Alex talks about, he basically does.
Have you ever looked at
very similar things to what I do here with like my daily updates channel? And he had a bunch more here. It doesn't look like he's added to this one in quite a while. But anyway, it's a pretty cool channel. Hosting or considered self-hosting? Yeah, for sure. Dying of boredom is real, 357. Highgrieve says, yeah, it's a lot of hustle, for sure. Stefan says, what do you think of creating an evergreen loom, presenting an automation you built, and sending it via cold email? I don't think this is a good idea, simply because you are not really standing out in a sea of people that are doing the same thing. Why not combine the best parts of both worlds, the uniqueness of a loom and the volume of a cold email? Because looms that you are templating are not unique. What do you think would be better, an evergreen loom or a personalized line created by AI? A personalized line created by AI, for sure. Lilith says, I love watching the steady growth in your channels and accounts. I enjoy finding them randomly through ChatGPT. Thank you very much, Lilith. I imagine you're probably Fatima. Thank you very, very much. One True Calling says, I call BS. Oh boy, here we go. Creating content across multiple social platforms, managing messages in all these places plus a Skool platform, creating training content for the main product, plus needing to stay on top of the AI trends. I'd estimate it's more like 18 hours a day for 365 days. Nothing wrong with working so hard, but to say it just takes a few hours a day, the math is not mathing. I don't really know what to tell you. It really does not take me very long to manage that community. The training content for the main product, plus needing to stay on top of the AI trends. I don't stay on top of the AI trends basically at all, honestly. You should see the number of videos that come up in my feed. I'm like, what's that tool? What's that tool? What's that tool? The reality is you don't need to know these tools in like extraordinary high quality or super depth or whatever to be able to, approximate valuable services with AI and automation. You really don't. So I don't need to stay on top of AI trends. I don't do that at all. Creating training content for the main product, that is starting to take a little bit more time. So I don't know how much time it's realistically going to take. I do 15 to 20 minutes a day of me just doing some ideation. When I was re-recording month 1 of Maker Skool, don't get me wrong, I spent more time than that for sure. I was spending like 4 hours a day or something for like, a week and a half. But yeah, in terms of the actual community management part, it's an hour and a half a day for sure. Yeah. And that's for 2 communities as well. So yeah, I speed this up with all of the logic here, which, you've already looked at, obviously, and you don't believe, so I don't really know what else to tell you. I was considering recording just like full end-to-end Loom videos and me doing it, but the closest thing you'll get for that is just head over to x.com, then just look up Nick Saraev work log. This is just like a day-by-day stretch of me doing literally everything on everything, and it just has like just a big log. Why don't I actually log recorded daily update? And I think it's going to end up being about 3 hours. Damn, that's big. Yeah, the content creation takes me way more than an hour and a half, to be honest. Am I crazy or did you not talk about how self-hosting NA sucks? Lol. Yeah, you are crazy. Hey, Harshit, thank you very much for those hearts, by the way. Hey, Nick, appreciate the valuable content, man. Is it a good idea to bring on a commission-only closer early if I train them on my system? Not super experienced in sales, but I just want to close as many deals as possible. Thoughts? I think that's reasonable, but I would definitely improve your sales skills because as I mentioned multiple times before, that's really where the alpha is in this stuff. It's in the sales skills, it's in the ability to pinpoint problems and offer solutions. It's not really in automations, if that makes sense. Peter Cass says, I'd really appreciate your advice on a partnership question, but to launch a new agency together with an established media marketing agency that's already doing about 800,000 euros a year. We're starting a completely new company. Current agency is untouched. They're offering me access to their existing clients, marketing in front of a 5-person team. In return, I'd handle all the technical automation work and partly support sales and closing in the beginning. I'll be putting in most of the time and effort. We're about to run a test project together, but then we'll need to agree on an equity split. Would be a fair percentage for me to give them in this kind of setup. Fascinating. Thanks a lot in advance. Yeah, great work, Peter. So, okay. You're starting it together with a social media marketing agency. You're going to get access to all of their clients, marketing infra, and a 5-person team. Are these team members valuable? If they are valuable and they're going to add value to your organization, then of course they're worthwhile. But if not, this might actually be a downside. Equity split. If you are just doing the building, the technical automation work, you have basically no leverage here. You are no different from a 6th person on the team. So you need to do the sales and closing, not just in the beginning, but the whole time, basically. And then you need to migrate to more of an advisory role. Advisory, and then I don't know if you want to do a managerial role, but advisory or managerial role, as the company grows, in order for you to be considered valuable enough to get more than 20 or 30%, to be clear, okay? Because otherwise they're just basically keeping their same agency that makes 800K a year and just hiring some mid-level automation engineer to then design systems that they can then pitch to clients. So that's the rub. Right now, probably not very much because the services you're going to be providing don't sound very valuable. Okay. What will happen if both will work together? AI agents will say, please leave me. He's talking about Nate. Shaper says, you mentioned you had bad monetization, then you improved to have much better monetization. What change did you make? I made a couple of changes. I created a really good product. That's the main thing. Created a really, really good product. I stayed really consistent for a very long period of time. My product was all about consistency and daily accountability. So when you are consistent and you are selling a product about consistency and daily accountability, proof is kind of in the pudding. And so people really tend to like that. So that improved my monetization. I also outlined all of my logic for all of this on my blog. So you'll see there was actually a period of time back in September 3rd, 2024, when I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. And I actually wrote all this down about Maker Skool. So what I ended up doing was all the way down here. After I identified that monetization was my bottleneck, I went through and then, did I do Maker Skool? No. There you go, right over here. It's low ticket. Oh boy. Okay, right over here. Low ticket community with templated tasks and a step-by-step guide. This is what I did right here. To make a long story short. So this is how I did my monetization. Before this, I was making, I think it was $50,000 or $60,000, maybe $70,000 from the info product. Not entirely sure. I would have to double check. But I don't know if I was making $100,000 a month collectively at this point. But this is the ideation that resulted in me with Maker Skool. So if you guys want to read that, just check the next few months of my career, okay? Cynthia gives me some hearts. Thank you. Thank you. Hey, next says Matthew, what are your thoughts on running a partnership for an AI automation business? How do you split the workload with a partner, like one person focusing on builds, another on marketing or whatever? I would focus more on just getting up and running with some with your first client as much as quickly as humanly possible before I decide to do any sort of partnership. And then only ever deal with that problem if you cross that bridge, you're forced to cross that bridge. And actually, I'm looking at this right over here. And hopefully I've clarified that I now have brought on a partner for Left Click, but yeah, for sure. So that's what I would do, man. That's the alpha here. You just got to get up and running as quickly as possible. If you don't have any clients, you don't really have enough value to actually do any sort of actually like be a draw for anybody to come in and help you. So best case scenario, you get to the point where you can just do all the stuff on your own, and then you develop awesome skills and you're like, wait, why don't I just make all the money and then operate extraordinarily quickly with high nimbleness and agility and so on and so forth. And then even if that doesn't work and you end up hiring anybody, now you're hiring from a much more confident and powerful position, somebody that has both skills. Nick, what platform is good for building voice agents, Vappy or VoiceFlow? I do Vappy. I'm doing cold calls via voice agent. I don't really think that that's super powerful, to be honest. I wouldn't do cold calls via voice agent. I just don't think people take them seriously. Mihai says, Nick, what you shared is truly incredible. In just 1 year, you've managed to accomplish things by drawing on all the knowledge you built up over the years. I was genuinely moved when you talked about being on stage with Alex and Sam. I could picture you there, and I felt that deep sense of fulfillment you must have experienced. Or maybe that's what I would have felt. Haha. I admire and respect you so much. I'm sure you're going to do even more extraordinary things. All the best, Mihai. Thank you very much, man. I will say it was surreal being up on that stage, and I'm really looking forward to absolutely milking that footage and just using it on every single thing, every thumbnail of mine, every cover photo, everything. Patrick 1992 says, can you explain what you mean with you letting your customers sign up with OAuth? How do you get into all the accounts then? Yeah, I use OAuth in N8N because it's cloud hosted, not self-hosted. Self-hosted instances don't typically allow you to use OAuth. Not yet. Maybe they will eventually, and this video will be old. But cloud-hosted instances do let you use OAuth for a variety of services. So you just sign into the accounts there using OAuth with our one click. You typically have credentials for the user for OAuth. Can you do a recruitment workflow next? Says Frida Cherry. For sure, Frida Cherry. Thank you for giving workflow or value, Nick. I'm clearly getting tired, but I think we're already almost at the top here. The family admin says, I find it so funny that people think it's just simple as starting up an N8N instance and building workflow and walking away. You have to maintain the operating system, the patching. You need to update security. You got to keep the instance of N8N updated so it doesn't have any security flaws. There's so many people out there trying to start agencies, and they just stand up unmanaged hosts and customer environments, and it makes all of us look bad. I agree entirely. Yeah. Self-hosting is a much more complicated issue than most people give it credit for. Two says, where can we watch your talk with Alex and Sam? I will definitely be putting up links to that. So no sweat. I think this comes out in a day or two. Step into Flow says, low-key profound. Never knew of you, but not only am I a maker, also looking for a community platform that matches my model for the material I teach. Thank you tons. Thank you very much, Step into Flow. I am Jordan Barnett, says, killer video, Nick. You give me some great ideas. Damn excellent mic, which I sounded half as good with my Rode. Thank you very much, Jordan. Definitely check out the Samsung, man. It's awesome. Mate says you should have named this video something with Hormozy, like what Alex Hormozy said about my Skool community. Miss CloutGain opportunity. Ooh, don't worry. There will be many CloutGain opportunities to come, my friend. Mammoth Money Mindset says, what a legend. Thank you. Brady says, as a 17-year-old, should I focus more on building automations and cold email and have my 22-year-old brother close sales calls? I don't want to use Upwork because I'm 17 and feel like it'd be a waste of time, especially with no prior experience in projects. The big thing is that you can't use it at 17 because if somebody finds that you are 17, which you are going to have to show them that you are, if you land a client because of identity verification, they'll just ban you right away. So yeah, if you wanted to use Upwork, you'd have to do this for sure. I think that this is reasonable take. You're very close to like being okay on Upwork though. So maybe like, start building up all those skills and then get everything ready for Upwork. And when you hit 18, which might be, on average in 6 months from now, you'll be able to hit the ground running. Corey says, so glad you guys did this. The goats. Thank you. Mita says, this is super valuable. Thanks for sharing this, Nick. Thank you. Mike Goen says, what software are you using to record this video and what microphone? Thanks for the help and keep up the great work. Awesome question, man. I'm using OBS Studio, Open Broadcasting Studio, with the Samsung Q2U that's just fed in through USB-C. I don't do any sort of audio live processing. I just do it all in post using a service called Ophonic. First comment, Nick says, Mahi, I really like you, man. I'm from Bangladesh and want to build an AI business. Get out there and build that damn AI business. Suvam says, hey, Nick, about a month ago, I left a comment talking about how I got my first client, $2,500, after selling them an outbound automation. I think you actually titled your video about it. Wanted to let you know that since then, I've actually been able to land another 4 and cross that elusive $10,000 mark, all thanks to you and the value you provide. Have you dealt with any unsatisfied clients before? And how did you handle it when you did? I have. I refund them immediately, and then I just never talk to them again. That is more or less it. I've dealt with some unsatisfied clients, but nothing super major. And I find that if you are just, 1, apologetic if you have genuinely made a mistake, and 2, if you just don't take shit from them if you didn't make a mistake and they're just being all pedantic about it. And then you combine that with you actually just giving them their money back. There's very, very little in the way of any sort of risk for you. People just get their money back. They don't really come after you or anything like that. Anyway, congratulations, Suvan. Thank you for sharing this on the YouTube channel. Mahi says, since you're an outreach guy, do you think making videos and building a personal brand will help me get clients? someone who's just starting an AI business. I don't really think that that's the best straightest line path for beginners. No, I think that you can make videos about yourself for sure. And maybe having one or two that showcase some cool system that you built on your YouTube channel is fine, just because it'll associate your name to a YouTube channel, and YouTube is high domain reputation, and it'll be up at the top of the feed when somebody Googles you. Better they find that than somebody else, right? But I don't think that this is a direct way to make money. I don't think this is a direct thing that I would recommend for beginners to do. I think in Maker School, we do this in like day 14 or something like that. So I would spend the first 2 weeks just doing outbound almost entirely. After you're done, you have a client under your belt, then maybe you could start worrying about other stuff. Jeff says, I don't think you understand how much you're helping and inspiring people. Best content creator on this app. Thank you very much, Jeff. Mr. Gafar says, would you say e-commerce is a good niche? I'm struggling to find a profitable niche in the Netherlands. I think e-commerce is an okay niche. I don't think it's as good as a couple of other ones. I think that like generally selling to service businesses is the simplest and easiest. With e-commerce, you're selling products, right? And so products have defined delivery mechanisms that I think are just like mostly automated at this point anyway. So I think you just have less opportunity to automate fulfillment on the back end. I think that services are human things, and so they require people, and people are typically the biggest bottlenecks that can be automated. So I focus more on service businesses, coaching businesses, that sort of stuff, just because there's more people, meaning more room for fulfillment automation. Benjamin says, why am I watching every single one of these videos? I'm not doing anything remotely related to AI. P.S. You once mentioned something general business at some point. That would be sick. Thank you. Bill says, I now understand why you give me Alex Hormozy vibes. You're articulate and clear in your topic. I want to be like you. Thank you, man. I'll be honest. I kind of disliked you at first because I thought you were arrogant. But the more I watch your videos, the more I realize that's just how confidence due to clarity looks like. Thank you, Bill. I appreciate it. I am certainly arrogant at times. Braden says, well, since you opened the door, cereal or milk first? Ooh, I don't have cereal. Oh, he's asking about my breakfast. Yeah, let's see. Earlier this morning, I had Greek yogurt, 17 grams of protein worth of it. I had a third of a cup of granola with 4 sliced strawberries and a little bit of honey. Amazing insight from the 2 leading AI automation specialists, says Leo. They're truly the best in the field. Well done. Thank you. Leo says, great job, man. Your enthusiasm and insights stand out. It's clear you're passionate about what you do. It's super inspiring to see. Keep up with the amazing work. You're making a positive impact. Thank you. Abib says, once I build automations for a client, what kind of value-added services can I offer to justify an ongoing retainer? Practically speaking, how long can we expect a client to keep us on retainer after the automations are in place? I'm a beginner and you've helped me a lot. I hope you know that you're awesome. Thank you very much, Abib. Yeah, so how long can you expect a client to keep us on retainer after the automations are in place? The idea is that you don't just build the automations and disappear. You continue building automations for them. And not only that, you continue providing value, not just in the way of automations, but over time, broader and broader until you're more of a strategist and a consultant than you are just a builder. So value-added services, they depend on the systems you're building. But let's say you build a lead gen system. A very simple and easy value-added service is to take that lead gen system and say, well, now that we're generating leads, you need a place to store and organize them. Why don't I build you a CRM? I can solve that problem, make you more money. Oh, now that I built you a CRM, you need a way to start automating communications and doing follow-ups and stuff like that. Why don't I build you a system that does that? Oh, great. Now that you have a lot more clients that are being onboarded, you need a way to automate the onboarding. Why don't I help you with that? You know what I mean? You're just working down the stack. Leo says, perfectly said, this is what I need to hear, but it's in quotes. And just given how enthusiastic you've been and how templated all these messages are, I have a feeling you're using AI to respond to this. That's all good. Get me that more engagement. Yassine says, goat. Thank you very much, Yassine. GHQ says, new here, don't know anything about AI or what's going on, like what you teach and how it's helpful to us. Where should I start? You should start at $1 million AI automation advice. I posted it on, sorry about that. I posted it on my channel recently. It's this one here. Just watch that one. That's a good place to start, especially with how fast ops are evolving. Any tips on pricing models that balance value and scalability? Yeah, I think that the end form of an AI automation agency isn't even like an AI automation agency. It's a hyper-specialized service that has AI automated the fulfillment of that service completely. So totally productized. Think like a fully productized, like sales admin suite, where you just like come into a business and there's like 3 main CRMs that you work with. So if it's like ClickUp, Asana, or Trello, then that you can take them on as a client. And when you do, you just have templates that are one click that just like automate everything for them. And then just charging a monthly management fee for that. That's like the best pricing model, I would say, on the end In the end. Yeti Vlog Life US says, heart, thank you. Manuel says, for the question about the client not paying but using the system, what I would think of doing is building a complete app with a UI, so the N8N only runs in the background, which they never get access to. Then you can add auth and remotely restrict access when the contract is terminated. This way, not only the system is safe from shady people, but also the perceived value goes up and it's easier and usable for non-tech people. This could be a pretty straight line path for sure, Manuel. I'm not going to discount that. I like that idea. Although, I just always err on the side of not like totally gatekeeping things. And this may be a little bit gatekeepy. Still, I think that could be a pretty cool system. Add some value, right? Luke says, I'm unclear on where the money comes from. Are these people paying to be part of the community so they can sell their business model to potential customers? I'd love to see a flow chart of where all this goes. Granted, some of the members try this for a while and it doesn't work out. That's profit for Nick, but not ideal as a member of the community. Yeah, for sure. Some people do try it out for a while and it doesn't work. I would say that's what my 90-day refund guarantee is for. So if you try it out and 90 days in, you don't land a paying customer, then I just give you your money back, the money that you spent on my program. So it's not really profit for me in that case because I just give you your money back, right? But yeah, some people definitely don't. They definitely don't do it, and that's all right. We all have different priorities, and we all have different propensities for work. There's some mismatch in expectations sometimes as well. People come on and they're like, "Oh, I just send 3 Upwork apps and I get a client, right?" And it's like, nope, that's not how that works, or most things in life. But yeah, to answer your question, people pay to be a part of the community so they can sell AI and automation to customers. So the agency service that they are providing is AI and automation related. This might be building an onboarding automation, might be building a cold email system, might be something like that. So imagine just any marketing agency and just swap out the marketing side with AI and automation. That's what you're selling. Just wanted to ask, is that your Make Money with Make series still relevant? Like the automation that you guys have built in that series, are they still sellable? Like the hiring pipeline, CRM systems, and high ROI dashboards. Yes. And if they're sellable, what market would you target if you had to sell them? CRM, high ROI dashboards, hiring pipeline. These are basically like recruitment and high volume agency applications. So think like content agencies, recruitment agencies, that sort of stuff. Thank you for the valuable content. I have a question. I'm willing to create automations for logistics, hosting N8N on VPS. Can you elaborate on security and some security tips? Or should I not care about it so much? Because privacy is very important nowadays, especially clients' private data. I can't really elaborate on this too much because I don't really care too much about this. In the industries that I work in, I don't really worry too much about privacy for specifically, and that's why I pick them. So that's why I don't recommend self-hosting N8N, to be honest. Just lets you avoid having to worry about security and stuff like that. That's also why I don't recommend going after enterprise clients to begin with, because then you just don't have to worry about safety and security and all that. Leo says, hey, thanks very much for the value providing. You're helping me grow. I've reached a point where I should start my cold email campaigns, but I'm not sure about the services. My clients up until now are exclusively from Upwork, and they're all low ticket. I don't have the confidence nor the case studies to approach companies and agencies and offer end-to-end products who've never actually done it before. How do I build that experience and start targeting high-ticket audiences? Yeah, I'm happy to help you and Richard both and anybody else that's struggling with the same problem, which I imagine is a fair chunk of you. The simple answer is you just build it for yourself. If you build one of these systems for yourself end to end, you will now have done it before, at least once. And you can confidently say things like, I built this system for an IT firm. I built this system for a workflow automation firm. I built this system for a consultant. You now have some level of proof that it actually delivers the outcomes that you're selling people about. Once you're done with this, it's much, much easier to really believe what you're selling, right? Dr. Travis Radar says, thanks for sharing. Watch the entire video, may have missed your reply. As you raise your monthly fee, are older members grandfathered into their intro price and just new members pay the current monthly membership fee? Thanks. Yeah, everybody's grandfathered in at the price that they paid at the beginning. As part of the business model, helps reduce churn because you don't want to leave and then pay more money to come back in after. Thank you, Harshit, and thank you very much, Extreme Life Darius. Last question, or first one, I should say, is from Hakizimana. He says, hey, Nick, thank you so much for the amazing free resources. We truly appreciate the value you're sharing. I have a request for a future video. Could you show us how you build a complete system for a client from start to finish and how you deliver it to them? Seeing your full process in action would be incredibly insightful. For sure. I'll do that for you guys. Awesome. That was it. We came in at a little under 2 hours and 35 minutes. I want to thank everybody that has stayed with me all the way until the end. Hopefully, the cadence of the video was enough that you guys could watch this reliably at the same speed all the way through. I was trying my hardest to make it so that that was. Hopefully, I also narrated everything out loud so that even people that weren't watching the video exactly could still get value out of just sticking me in their earlobes and letting it rip. Want to thank you guys from the bottom of my heart for all of the value you guys have provided me. I found myself with an additional couple of hours free, and I thought I would just, knock all these out of the park to help reset the timer from 9 days all the way back to something more reasonable, like a few days out. And, if I hurt your feelings or anything like that, that's okay. Just drop me down a comment below telling me why. I'm more than happy to discuss the merits of certain business models with you guys, as you guys could see. I think that there is a lot of value in having some sort of reasoned debate, so long as it is, of course, good faith. Thank you very much for your time. Looking forward to tomorrow's video, and I certainly hope I upload this in time. What is it, 9:44? Yeah, okay, I should be fine. Cheers, guys.